And call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. We will call to order the meeting of the Bristol Budget Committee, and I'm calling up the agenda. So, the first agenda item is to go back and talk about, I got a request from Charlie before the last meeting, and then he had a family conflict come up and didn't come to the meeting. So I introduced it, you weren't here, so I don't know if you read the minutes. And,
yes.
But a request to talk about overall budget shape and goals and properties and kind of how do we want to look at it from the big picture before we get down into the details. And I asked Christina to tell the chiefs that we reserve the first 30 minutes. So we don't have a lot of time to do this, but we have enough time to resolve this, and then we'll go on to talking about specific sections. So, Charlie, since rather than me trying to repeat what I heard from you, why don't I just ask you to share what you said to me with the rest of the committee and think about what we want to do.
Yeah, so I've been essentially crafting my ideas around budget goals and priorities. I think it's important context that last year we essentially had, I think ended up being a 7% increase is what we approved on last year's budget. And right now, just looking at general fund operations, which is on page 20, if you have the paper document. I don't know if people are keeping their budget document on them. But on page 20 is the total for general fund operations. And that Board of Selectmen total would put our increase at 7.4% on general fund operations. And this does not even take into account what the overall increase will be, because this number does not take into account us starting to make payments on the new public safety building. So I think if you take that into account, I think with a 7.4%, I may slightly be wrong, I think you're looking at something about 11% increase.
I don't have it.
When you take a lot of things into account, it's going to be something around that 11% increase. Do you have a better figure for me?
Well, can I just clarify? I was giving them budget. You said that it didn't take into account the public safety building payment. It does.
The general fund operations number?
Yeah. Well, it's in the. If you look at, you can see the general fund operations number down further. Total general fund operations and debt service, it is 11%. So I just wanted to make sure.
Oh yeah. So that is on page 21.
Right.
Yeah, I'm referring to page 20.
Right. So the 11% is accurate.
So 11. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the 11% that I stated is an accurate figure when taken into account when you add general fund to debt service.
Yeah.
And the main addition to the debt service is, of course, the new public safety building. Because since it's a brand new building, we're not only paying on principal, we're paying a lot on interest too, because of essentially a large balance on that building. So I just wanted to put out there, I don't think we should do anything binding, but I'm going to vote in a way to try to bring general fund operations down to closer to 5%. So that would be looking at reducing this number on page 20, the 6,764,956 number, or you can look at the department number, the 6,771,044 number.
I think they just handed out a new version today. Slightly different.
Okay.
I think this is a Janet's set. There's an extra set. I got an extra set.
On the new ones, they're 21 and 22, not 20 and 21, that's all.
Oh, the pages are different.
Yeah.
Not in the numbers. Okay. Wait.
The numbers are different.
Oh, the numbers are different.
I think we fixed some things.
Well, the numbers are gonna be
For
different
you.
because of the adjustments that were made 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and we did the adjustments you already voted in.
That
Oh,
set
okay.
should be,
Yeah.
that's a spare set if you want
Yep.
that. Am I confusing you there?
Nope.
So it's on page 21 is
Thank you.
the bottom.
So then, this number, we're looking at relatively the same number, actually, it's
Right.
about $1,000 difference.
That's the point I wanna make.
It's not,
Is the fact that your number was not exactly correct. Your statement is still,
The same, right?
Yeah,
it's close enough. Let's not worry about it.
so
I'm just trying to
Myself.
follow along, that's all.
and I think it's important that when I make votes, I'm making votes with the goal of getting us near a 5% increase for the general fund operations, which would mean about a decrease of 154,000, 150,000, something in that ballpark area.
So maybe I misunderstood. You're not looking to present a motion to get the board to vote.
No, I am not.
You're just informing
I am
the
informing
board
that-
that you intend to do.
I intend to, even things that seem to be good decisions, I might vote against.
Okay.
Based on this figure. I am worried about essentially doing a 7% increase one year to people's tax bills, and now doing 11% increase to their tax bills in the current state of things. I would rather us try to at least buffer our increase from year to year.
Okay. Anyone else wanna comment before
I'll say the same thing I said last meeting. Why not 5.5 or 6 or 7 or 4.9 or 4.3 where it's 5?
But it's just a goal, it's
Well,
not
I'm saying
necessarily.
it's 5 I'm just wondering,
So
I just wanna
I'm
be-
looking to get our increase, our total increase, including debt services, closer to more of a 7, 8, 9%.
yeah, I understand that, so, okay.
Because I would rather, I understand that budgets are gonna have to go up every year. I would rather keep the amount of them going up more stable.
I get that, okay.
Yeah, that's how I came up with that.
Okay.
Yep.
Simple, okay. Thank you.
So, the comment that I would make is I thought you were asking for, you were gonna make a proposal that we were gonna aim to hit 5%. And the comment that I made, when you weren't here, just so that you know, and everyone else can hear it again, is I don't disagree with your overall comment that the proposed increase in total spending is gonna be difficult for quite a number of people in our community, and that aiming to reduce that is appropriate. The concern I had was, I mean, anything is a bit arbitrary, but an adjustment down in the increase is good. I think in my mind it has to be, I'm not committing to a specific number. It's a goal. If we get to the end and we do some, but we don't get all the way, I'm not looking to make a huge arbitrary slash in the budget at the last moment in order to find a way to save more money. I still want to make decisions that make sense, and that when we add it up, I think we're not going to get all the way to what you had said would be wonderful. And I'm disappointed in that, but that's my opinion. I'm willing to consider changes, and if you make motions to make adjustments, I will certainly consider them. Anyone else? This is not as long as I thought.
Yeah,
This is
I feel like we're gonna do what? We do 20-something votes.
yeah.
And in those 20 votes, you essentially are, in a de facto way, voting on a budget goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
The only thing I can say is, I agree with Charles. I hope we can find a way to do it. I think the closer we can come to that 5%, the better off, at least a lot of people like me, senior citizens, that are living on a fixed income. My retirement was established years ago, and it hasn't gone anywhere in a great way. And there's an awful lot of people in this town that are as bad off as I am or worse.
You didn't get a 10% increase this year?
Pardon me?
You didn't get a 10% increase this year? Sorry.
I did in expense. They say 8, but I think it's a lot closer to 10% increase. And that's something we can't have an effect on. But there are things in this budget that we can affect without really hurting the people in the town.
Right.
Especially those older people who have supported this town with all their heart for many years.
Yep. Okay. I think we are done with that, ready to move on. Before I forget, because I don't think I mentioned it when we came in, Janet did send me a note earlier today and said something had come up, and so she is not coming to the meeting today. So the 6 of us are all that's here today, which is fine. We have a quorum, we're ready to go on. So now let's move into our next item, which is regular business, which is department reviews, and police would be first according to our agenda, unless Ben needs to run somewhere and you guys want to trade.
Yeah. I'll push over for you, chief, instead of hogging the whole table.
Old page 9, new page 9.
What is it? Yeah, let's see, I'm looking for it here.
So, hang
So-
on the button?
So as a starting point, let me make a motion
Yeah.
to consider the budget for the police department, which is section 4210 in our spreadsheet on, it ends on page 10, in the amount of $1,250,695. Can you get a second? Rob seconds. We now have an item on the table open for discussion.
Wait, I'm sorry, can you repeat that? What's the budget? 1 million?
$1,250,695 is the number I
That's what I thought. For
have.
some reason, I think it said something different. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I
Yeah.
might have, but
No, that's okay.
I think I got that one right.
Yep.
So maybe before we go through and ask questions, we'll give Chief McIntyre an
Do
opportunity.
you need a second?
I got a second.
Okay.
Welcome, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I think with our original meeting, the marching orders were to keep it pretty tight. I think overall, it's a level funded budget with the exception of items that are really out of control. Personnel items being obviously the bear of it at the beginning, and then health insurance, and then moving down to fuel costs. But relatively speaking, through my percentage increase, it's very little impact on my budget. So I tried to achieve a pretty conservative presentation, and I think we can do it with this budget. And it's also going to be a year that's difficult for the PD because a lot of our operational costs are potentially not as much because we're potentially having no building by March. So we'll have an electricity bill, I would imagine, and then be in the construction phase. That building and the operational cost for the building itself won't be there because we'll be essentially
Upstairs or next door
in
or
other
somewhere
people's
else, yeah.
Freeloading.
kind of freeloading, yes, on apartments. So that's so yeah. I mean, I've done my best to project it. It's probably will come in under budget is my prediction on those items as well. Fuel is anybody's guess, and I've vacillated back and forth between last year dropping a significant amount off and then finding out that bit me pretty quickly, and then the increase in electricity. We anticipated an increase in electricity, and we haven't really met that projection. So the actuals for electricity are I think right on target. So
I didn't see the increase in electricity till next year.
right. Well, last year we added it to the
No,
budget.
last year we
Yeah, we have like
increased all
40%.
the lines significantly, because right at the end of the year, we got new
We
electricity
changed.
numbers.
Yeah.
It's gone up again,
Yeah.
but that'll be as of January,
Yeah.
the new rate, so.
Yeah. But I robbed the gas Peter to pay the electrical Paul, so it didn't. It was maintain a level on our budget. So that's pretty much my presentation to you. I'm just here for you to go down through the lines and hear what you have to say, and I'll fight for what I need to fight for.
Yeah, do you have something you want to
No,
start?
go ahead, I was gonna,
I'm just interested in to start out, line 144, which is, PD holiday pay. I'm assuming is that a consistent number you know about? So, like,
144.
This year it looks like we are quite a bit underspent
We
currently.
haven't paid the second half.
Yeah, so good point. So police and, go ahead.
I was gonna say, before you do that, could you just explain, is that pay for?
Is that contractual?
Like extra
Yeah,
people
is
you
that-
need on holiday, you bring in on a daily basis?
No,
Is that
so-
pay for like people who have to work
Yeah.
holidays?
Yeah,
and
so
you pay them
police,
their day
police and
off?
fire, we operate on a different program as far as holiday pay because of staffing. They just work on their regular schedule because they're all on a fixed schedule. When a holiday comes, they're scheduled to work, they still work it. We get paid, not we, but the salaried employees don't get paid, or non-essential don't get paid this, but the patrol get paid twice a year. They get paid for 5 holidays in a lump paid, and they get paid at the end of the year in November, December for the second 6. So it's a total of 11 paid
So this
holidays.
is working
So-
like Veterans Day, Christmas,
Right, so
Thanksgiving.
parades or whatever, just regular patrol, and the civic line covers parades and the additional manpower that
Yeah.
you're talking about. But holiday pay covers the 11 paid holidays
Working
that
on
our
holidays.
employees are offered as a benefit.
So yeah, so they don't get paid the holiday pay throughout the year like every other employee would.
They get
They
it
get it
two increments.
2 increments.
So once in June, they get a five holidays in a check, and then once in November, they get their second of the
Amount of
11,
holidays.
the second check.
So I just wanted to confirm, I think what I'm hearing you say is that your police officers don't actually get to take holidays off. So if they're scheduled to work on Christmas, they work on Christmas, they get their normal pay for working.
Correct.
And then they also get an extra pay because it's a holiday
Correct.
and that's a benefit and they need to get paid for the holiday.
Correct.
But you don't do that in weekly or monthly paychecks, you do that twice a year in 6 month
Police and
increments.
fire does it. That's the
Same
only,
way.
those are the only 2 departments in the town that do it. And that's just for scheduling, because we do the 24/7 scheduling, and everyone wants a holiday off, so we don't schedule that. They have to put in for another vacation day and whatnot, so.
Okay, does that answer your question, Charles?
Yep.
Question for the chief.
Ron?
So, it looks like you're gonna be well under budget this year.
Well, the actuals, we have a lot of things that are just coming out now, so we're just finishing up our tires, we still have fuel, we still have the electric, there's a couple of uniform items that are out. We're in good shape for coming in consistently, a little bit under budget.
What would you project? And I know it's a tough one.
It's tough because, we paid the dispatch line, I just noticed that on the actuals, but it's tough because the last, this is the first time I'm seeing the November actuals today on this particular sheet, but the last ones I had was November,
October.
yeah, October. So September 30th, I had the actuals for that. So it's tough to project, but I don't even have a percentage on that.
Oh, here, if you want to see them, they're online.
Sure, so where are we
They're in this
percentage of
column. Right here. Well,
the total on the?
no, I don't have a percentage for that. Sorry, that's your total. Increase.
So I can't answer your question.
Alright, fair enough. At least you're honest.
If you took, I was gonna say, even if you took that number and divided it by not quite 11 months, that
You
would
really
be-
can't.
You can't.
Because
'cause you-
especially where a lot, I
Right.
can sympathize with Jim as a department head. I'm sure he's got things he's been waiting to purchase to make sure he has enough
Right.
money left on the budget for him, so.
So
Right.
you're at 79% right now.
Oh, I don't have that page in
I
front of
don't
me.
have that percentage of actual, but
Or
is that what it says?
986,000 divided by 101,220,000, am I?
Yeah, no, that's
Right.
right.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Yeah, it's reasonable.
It's
but
reasonable for that
Probably
percentage.
had it.
of
Like, kind of the way things work in municipal
Sure.
budgets, you
Yeah.
hold off on
Right.
So that's
certain things to make sure you're not gonna have any.
Right, and I know that
Oh,
when Bob
I
pays
do
the,
have that page, but it's in October. Sorry to interrupt you. So for
that's-
police, it's I can't. Did it help if I put my glasses back down?
good.
Where the
scroll
heck
up
are
right
you?
there.
So for police
We have-
at the end of October, they were at 78.26%. That doesn't include the 28 days of November that you're seeing in the updated budget before you.
And some of the larger numbers too are the retirement and the taxes that get paid out on employees, which are larger numbers at the end of the year as well. So I don't know if Bob's figured that out yet.
So I actually would
Group
just, the fact that you can't, or with any confidence, can't predict where you're gonna be at the end of the year doesn't surprise me. I guess I'd like to follow up with Rob. What were you thinking when you asked the question?
So one of the trends I tend to look at, and I can't tell by looking at what I have here because I don't know the numbers, but how much of the actual budget is being used every year. So are we allocating too much money
Are
out
we
of the
consistently
budget?
showing a
Are we
surplus?
consistent? And I can tell you, police historically is on the better side of that. So I'm not, it's just one of those things I look at, is I'm not trying to trap you with that question. So, typically PD is within that 1 to 3%, same with fire. Highway tends to be the one that I've seen a lot of times in the past that is underexpended. And that money's going back to the general fund that's underexpended. So, which is, I'd almost rather see somebody go over their budget by 1% than be under it by 10, if that makes any sense.
Right. It does.
Well, just 2 comments on that. If somebody goes over their budget, it has to be found in someone else's budget then.
Oh, no, I understand that, but.
But second comment would be that the money that goes back to the general fund is used to apply to the tax rate too.
Right.
So, people, the money they turn back just isn't thrown into the general fund for, they applied $250,000 to keep the tax rate down with it.
Yeah.
Not fully down,
Right,
unfortunately,
from
for
following
this year.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
I'm looking proactively.
Right, no, I understand.
We talked about that at some length at the last select board meeting,
Oh, sorry.
and at the
Yeah.
setting of the tax rate,
Yeah,
about the danger of making your budgets too small, and now you're under budget or over budget at the end of the year, and that's worse.
and to add extra money to reduce the tax rate even further can be a risk as well.
Right.
Okay, can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
So what is your, this is probably a sticky subject, but what is your pay increase rate that you're going by on all of these pay increases?
Well, I have I think originally they were looking at 4%, but
Well,
I think it's a 3%.
These are
This
from
is
previous.
these are already approved.
These
So
are
the
already
4%
approved,
you see in these lines are already approved 2022
Okay.
budget.
Okay,
If you were looking for the actual pay increases, those are under the personnel lines under 4155.
Yep.
So
Okay.
these were already voted on the 2022 budget.
okay. So one of them has an increase, let's say the sergeant, PD sergeant, had an increase of 11,000, but another one, patrol officer, had a decrease of 8,000.
So we had a sergeant that left for retirement, and that's his line. And then we had
Yeah.
a patrolman that was promoted. So you'll see a decrease in one and an increase in the other. It's like
Okay,
a wash.
and
So
that
he
just
becomes,
balanced it out. and-
it essentially does balance out.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you had someone get a promotion, then they brought someone in.
Right.
And you have a new person in there to do it, or just someone who was bumped
Well,
up?
we were fully staffed. When the sergeant retired, we hired a patrolman.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then we tested to promote one of our staff into that supervisory position.
Yep, all right.
Yep.
As it relates to essentially the building lines, which would be 410 electricity, 411 heating propane, 431 building maintenance and custodial. Those are essentially the building lines. Is it safe to say we're essentially going to be out of a building for 6 months? Is that what it looks like?
We'll be out of our building for, they say 10 months to a year.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So
Now,
we're
there's
only going to be
electricity-
using that building for a third
Say again?
of roughly something like a quarter of the year that building's going to be used next year.
This building will be used until March.
Let's call it 6 months to be safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
Yeah, because there could be delays.
Yeah.
But even if you did
right.
6 months.
Well, I mean, the budget is in play to operate it, but that's what the unknown would be is if I don't have
and that's
operating
the thing
costs.
is I'd rather have the cost in there.
I mean, it would be, if you cut the budget, we're gonna end up having operating costs. And next year, that budget will be totally different because
Oh, yeah, yeah,
combined
totally.
costs and
Yeah.
whatnot.
I was thinking the same thing you were, Charlie, and at the end of the day, it's, if something, if the building doesn't happen this year, when that money's not there, then he's up a creek, with that.
Kind of.
I cut myself off.
But if something happened, the selectmen would do something
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
The selectmen just wouldn't say,
Sorry, you can't
tough
operate.
luck. We need the police department, we need the fire department. But certainly, in the spirit of the discussion you heard from us,
Yeah.
is there some place you could come up with a couple % that would help us?
Yeah, I came into it with a sharp pencil, so, I guess what I would have you do is, it's difficult
I
because,
mean, excuse me, those three lines are $23,000 and good Lord willing, the creek don't rise and everything goes like it's supposed to, you shouldn't spend more than maybe 30 or 40% of that.
Exactly. I'm saying let's go safe and we cut
Right.
those in half. That would still be covered 6 months of the year
However,
if construction gets delayed.
if we cut it and then things don't go as, then we have to dig the money
Well,
out.
you'd have to
that's-
find the money somewhere else in the
Yes.
budget to
so
cover
also
it.
factor that there's electricity required, the site has to have electricity for the construction to happen. So I mean, it's not a flat zeroed out cost.
You really can't eliminate
Right,
that
so-
electricity line.
Yeah, it's right, could be, yeah.
But
I mean, you just don't have to heat a building that's not there,
I
but.
hear what you're saying, but I guess as somebody who was an engineer, I mean, electricity on site to run tools and do construction, I would charge to the capital project to build a safety building. I wouldn't charge it back to the operating cost of the police department that vacated the site.
Oh, well, I mean, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's coming from your purse eventually, but I'm not sure, how that would. I know that they would probably just disconnect the service that's there and put up a temporary service to work off of. So it would still be billed to 230 Lake Street. So
Yeah.
essentially, I don't.
You're right,
split it
the town
Yeah.
has to pay the bill, it's just which
Right.
budget line is gonna come
Right.
out.
And I would
To
assume
which I would expect an increase
for construction,
in electrical usage.
perhaps. I mean, we do run lights 24/7 and computers and whatnot, so there's quite a bit of usage. But it potentially, could be more of a draw.
Yeah, between
Peak
lighting
hours,
and
yeah.
running,
Compressors.
stuff that's out now.
Yeah.
So I mean, I believe that it's in the budget, but what I would say is that electricity is going to be billed to the town monthly, and we'll have to pay it.
Yeah, I guess along the same type of thought, Christina, this probably is for you. I thought I heard the police, you guys are gonna use some space upstairs? In
Correct.
addition to some space next
Or
door?
using vacant offices in the building, in this building, not upstairs, but in the
Okay.
in the admin wing
Okay, but
and the fire station as
do
well.
so the cost to run this building, certainly for electricity, will probably go up. Do you have any?
I don't think I don't think your use is gonna increase the electricity. I mean, the heating they could get cold and increase the heat at night, no kidding, but.
Well, I mean,
but-
I didn't know whether they were gonna, I remember we talked about
But-
like a server rack before, I didn't know
Oh,
whether it was
yeah,
moving
it's
and
probably-
set up.
We're paying for that out of this year's budget, if at all possible, to get the server rack moved, to get their server moved. That's coming out of the capital reserve fund. So we're working on doing that. So yes, those costs would be taken care of, but we're hoping to have those out of the capital reserves and out of this budget, if at all possible, whatever we can encumber towards that.
There'll be some small increase in electricity.
As freeloaders in these different facilities will probably use
I'm
more
gonna program their
electricity.
lights to shut off. I'm kidding.
But in reality, the
know.
day operations here are Monday through Friday, essentially the administrative or support services. The operations at the fire department, that would be more 24/7. That's where the patrol would go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of functional. They're already there 24/7, so I don't really see a huge increase. And here, I don't think you'll see it. The lights are on already here during the day. The heat is on. the computers will add in the server.
The lights are on until like 10 o'clock at night some nights here, so.
Yeah, but in every office, I mean.
Oh,
not-
well, upstairs, we'll go around.
Yeah.
Well, that's
turn
what I mean,
lights
so
on.
I'm just
Sorry.
saying, if they are going to use the offices, they will increase.
It's
Right.
not gonna be comfortable for anybody,
No.
but I mean, like, again, we're splitting hairs for light usage and shutting
Yeah, I
switches
don't
off. I
think-
think that there'll be a minor increase in their usage.
about, yeah.
We'll have some usage at the site, minor increase in their, maybe in their facility.
Any use for this building would be paid for out of the other budget.
Right,
We
there's
wouldn't,
actual
we wouldn't try to
budget for
cut
the
out
building.
any
You're not- that's-
extra,
right.
yeah.
I just
so-
wanted to confirm that, you're
Yeah.
not gonna try to chop it up and allocate it.
No, no.
Can I ask about another line? Are we?
Go ahead.
Line 660, the PD cruiser
Yeah.
maintenance line.
Yes.
Does that cover routine maintenance and maintenance that is something breaks? You need a new radiator, those types of things too,
Yeah.
all coming from that
Any-
line?
Correct, so we had those broken down in like 5 or 6 lines for each car and
Yeah.
consolidated them into one, and it seems to work out. And that covers anything that's not covered by warranty.
And you probably feel comfortable about it. Like in 2021, you spent $7,000 out of this line. Keeping that couple $1,000 buffer allows you to make a major repair if you need to make a major repair.
Correct, yeah, if you have a head gasket.
Yeah, I was wondering if it
water
covered
pump,
routine and stuff like that.
Yeah, and a lot of these things that happen aren't, and the fire department deals with the same thing, when a pump goes, and because we run them in a manner that they're not covered under warranty, it's an out-of-pocket expense, so, that's how the lines worked out really well as far as, staying in budget, but also being able to cover the major expenses.
One more question, Chief. Certified Special Police.
Yeah, so that line is twofold, so
Which
we,
number is that?
That is,
That's
190.
190.
190.
Thank you.
So 190 and 143, I use those combined. So certified special police are if we have to hire somebody from outside our agency that's certified to do a job, or a special prosecutor. So we are able to use court prosecution and court services and that certified special police to cover our contracted prosecution service that we use at the district court. So that's what that line is. And actually you can see the court one is overexpended this year and the other one isn't, and it balances out. We bill it to each line.
And those are gonna see huge fluctuations from year to year.
Correct. Well,
So-
it varies based on, they give us a tentative contract based on the numbers. So if we have an average number of arrests over 3 years, they give us a better rate. If we drop or increase, and that's kind of an unknown. So, but it's based on what we're paying at this point.
So I think my big thing on that is, so you have one part-time officer, correct?
So yeah, Josiah.
Let's leave the
yeah,
court
yeah.
thing aside for a second.
So we have one part-time officer that works special events and details.
Right, so he's getting paid out of the.
He comes out of special events and details, right?
So I guess my, why not increase the court prosecution services line and decrease the special?
Absolutely, that's what I use the line for. There's
Yeah.
2 lines I use for the one purpose, and if I need another officer in the event that I would need, it actually was before I was here, they would use more officers from outside of town for the fireworks when we had the big event down on the shore front. So that's when we used it.
And add actual part-time officers.
Yeah, and then COVID hit and we changed that we don't do the fireworks, well, we did the fireworks, but it's not as much of a festival where you have people, walking around and causing no problems. It's been a little bit more subdued over the last couple of years, but, so that was the original use of it.
Is that something we want to take on as a committee to change that, or do we want to just leave that to the chief to change next year?
When I look at those lines, particularly like certified special police, yeah, some years it's like 1,000, 2,000, but some years it's also 4,000. I see that as a line that can pretty much go anywhere. And when we need a special officer, I want to be able to get that
Right.
special officer.
So-
Historically, that was a $15,000 line, and it's come down markedly over the past few years. My point is that we used to have part-time officers, people that didn't go through the full-time academy. That doesn't really exist anymore, other than a few people that are probably grandfathered that
We have one part-time officer that is a full-time conservation officer.
Right, yeah.
So all of our part-time certified people we no longer have.
So my point is that the usage of those part-time, whether they be, you know, full-time with another department or somebody that was grandfathered, the usage of those people are usually for special events that are paid out of the police department revolving account. So that's where my point is, so rather than have it as, forgive the term, kind of a slush fund for the overage on the other, let's increase the other line and make the special police what it actually is, leave a couple $1,000 in there if he does need to hire an officer in to cover a shift or something on that rare occasion.
It's more, you're saying more consolidate the line to 2 line items like we did with the cruisers.
Or even do that,
Essentially,
sure.
That's essentially
Yeah.
what, and I think the select board had done that with the cruisers
Yeah.
last year, so.
Yeah.
And I have no problem with putting it in one line to make it easier to follow. I just, if I needed my part-time officer to work a patrol shift,
Yeah.
then he would work under that line.
Exactly.
And I don't typically need that because I have a full staff and we don't call him to work that. He's able to work
Who
just.
knows something.
Right, but if we were short-handed, 1 or 2 people with an injury or maternity leave or whatever, we could call him and say, can you work a patrol shift this week because we need to cover open shifts. So it's necessary, it's kind of a, it's like an insurance policy. It's having that line in case we need them. And we do have one person that's capable because he's full-time certified.
Thank you.
The thing I'm struggling with, Rob, is that whether you keep 143 and 190 at $4,000 and $5,000 or combine them together into $9,000 doesn't change the amount. So I don't have a strong opinion either way. I don't think anyone's making
And
a
neither was,
proposal
so I
to-
didn't realize he was using money out of that for court costs, which, you know, he's down, he answered the question, so. He had that then in line that, no, that's just strictly for use as a.
I get what you're saying.
Then
It's just
I-
being used for
then I
that,
might have
then
said,
it's
hey,
utilized, let's cut it.
let's
or
reduce that
move it around.
$3,000, you know? But in this case, where there is a use for it, I would just rather see it, you know, put 3,000 in that other line, so it's reflected in the budget more accurately.
I mean, we have a custodial service line.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, that is a line that potentially after March won't need to be spent.
I thought 640 though, that
640.
custodial services line is pertaining more to you having to clean cars in,
No, that's our building.
That's the building.
Yeah,
oh, that's the building maintenance
Yeah.
The
custodial line?
Yeah,
That
so
is
that's
about
like-
you cleaning,
so that's a cleaning line.
that's the cleaning the vehicles line?
No, the
No.
cleaning company that comes in.
Okay. So what is 640 then?
640 is the one we were just talking about.
Sorry.
Custodial services.
Service.
It's
So-
custodial services for our building. And then 631 is a building maintenance / custodial services.
So
And-
that's.
So are they the
that's
same
not
thing?
On this budget.
he said
I would have
631.
631.
631's gone.
So
He meant 431.
Sorry, okay, thank you.
431 and
431.
640, I don't get how those lines are different.
So,
Oh, maintenance, yeah, cause.
so building maintenance is like our hot water, our instant
Okay.
on hot water heater went this year. And we had to pay $800 to have a plumber come and do that. When we do the safety checks and the lights don't work, we have to replace those lights. If the ballast goes in the lighting, we do that. So we take that, we charge that to a building maintenance / custodial. We also had cleaning last year, which was COVID related. So if somebody, we were cleaning buildings, I think we did ours twice last year and it was foolish money, but they would come through and wipe everything down and we did that twice and that was out of that line as well. But the other maintenance line is the 640 is a weekly cleaning service.
Sweep the floors, empty the
Yeah,
wastebaskets.
exactly. Basic cleaning, maintenance, facility maintenance.
So
Probably
when I look at line 431,
Out.
I should be more focusing on the building maintenance term. The custodial term is
So
rather,
I would,
So
I would
it's
take
not a
the
good term.
word out.
But that's a good point, if, you know,
We
we were
don't-
talking earlier about trying to make
it's those 4 lines.
making it easier for people to understand outside
Yeah,
of us.
yeah.
that-
The word custodial there is quite confusing.
You
I'm
just
gonna
take-
recommend to take the word custodial out
Should
of
just be building
431.
maintenance.
431.
Yeah. Yep. I'll highlight this and ask Bob to do that.
And we haven't- we-
Line 290 travel, it hasn't been needed up till now. What kind of travel would that include?
So if we send someone to a school or class that's in Maine, so sometimes there's a detective course in Maine, or highway drug interdiction, we have to put the officer up in a hotel or whatever, that would be travel expenses. We haven't done a lot of travel, and again, since we restricted our training locally, we haven't done a lot of travel, so that is it $200, $250?
$250.
I mean, it's just, again, it's in case we have to travel. So it's just not been spent.
Do you need a motion to vote? or-
Can I make motions now?
So,
To amend ones.
actually, the comment I was gonna make is, if somebody has more questions, we certainly can do that, but I think we're starting to run down. Does anyone have any motions to amend before we move to a overall vote on the department budget? So yes, I'll entertain motions to amend.
I'll make a motion to amend line 410 PD electricity to amount of $6,500.
Okay, so Charlie has made a motion to amend section 4210, line 410 for police department electricity from the current proposed amount of $13,000 to a new proposed amount of $6,500. Do we have a second for that amendment?
Could I?
He needs to-
I need to get a
Yeah.
motion and a second, and then we
Yes.
can go into discussion.
I'll make the second.
Walter will second. So now we will discuss the motion to amend. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, the actuals are $7,910, so $6,500 is gonna not be good.
Well, I think
So my rationale is us keeping 50% in the lines.
yeah, I think what
Because
Charlie
it's due to
I
building
wanna know-
construction.
I wanna know where the power is gonna come from during construction.
I think it's likely he is right, that the
It's
power
likely,
comes
yeah.
out of building costs.
We don't know that though. So, and I don't think either one of these.
I couldn't answer that question. There needs to be power run. When I used to build houses, I didn't pay for electricity. The person who owned the lot would have the temporary service connected, and that bill would go to the customer.
And I hear what you're saying, Chief, but I feel confident as a major contractor on a $5 million project. If they don't have money in the budget, the construction budget for some electricity to run all their tools, then we probably should be questioning their competence, because they have to be able to do the job. I'm sorry.
No, I interrupted you. That should,
I'm
should be easy enough for one of you guys to find that answer, right?
As far as, yeah, I suppose we could. I had asked for 13,000 in this year's budget, so
So I hear you that you're not comfortable with this. What I'm thinking that Charlie is saying is, unless something strange happens, you're gonna use the building for 3 months, and then you're gonna vacate, and they're gonna knock it down and build a new one. So we'll fund you at 6 months just in case getting out of there gets delayed. That should be plenty, with the expectation we don't have to provide for electricity construction in here. I mean, if you come back at a later date and say, yes, I forget the name of the company, but they're expecting just to plug things in and not have to pay for electricity, we would have to go back and reconsider the line. But we're thinking, at least I'm thinking, that this provides electricity to operate the building.
So my question to you would be, if we're anticipating this increase, which is what led me to the asking for 13,000, anticipate not knowing whether our building was going to move forward in March or not. If you want to cut that line, I wouldn't go to 6,500. That doesn't make sense. That's less than what my actuals are. At least go back to what my actuals are. Maybe have a motion to do it at $8,000, or give me another month, $9,000, and cut it from 13 to 9. On my request, that would be my suggestion. But
I'm missing something. So are you saying that you are not confident that the construction is going to start in the first half?
I didn't say
of
that. I just don't know. I don't know if it's going to start in March. I don't know.
supposed to start last
I don't know if we're going to have to pay for
It
the
was, but is there
electricity.
any
I
reason to
don't
believe
know
that
these
it's not?
answers.
That's what we need to know.
But if you're trying to give me a budget, and I'm asking for 13 and you're saying 6, I would say let's meet at 9, and I can swallow that, because if the building is torn down in March, then we're right on task, we're right on target. If it's not, then I'm not asking for money that I need.
Okay.
So
Why would you only target the electric line then?
Oh, I have to make my motions one line at a time. Yeah.
What
I'm
I'm
following
What
procedural.
what I'm hearing here is that Charlie is saying the new building is gonna get built, so we don't need to fund operations for the full 12 months. And what you're saying is, I hope that's true, but I'm not willing to bet on it. I want enough money in there to run the building for 12 months in case something happens and I need to stay there for 12 months.
we're
Is that a fair recap of what I'm hearing you say?
Because the bottom line to that is, if it goes there, we have to take money from something else to pay for that.
correct.
If we don't fund this,
And this is
and
the
the building
very
doesn't get
line.
built, we have to take money from someplace else.
This is the very line that I took money from my fuel line because of the same question and gave it to my electrical line and ended up having fuel costs go up, so then I'm now expended in my fuel. So I hear what you're saying, I just.
Right, and what I'm struggling with is that I was starting from where Charlie was, which is the new building's gonna get built, you're gonna probably move out in March, worst case you move out in May. Why do you need 12 months worth of electricity? And what you're saying is, I probably don't, but there is a non-zero chance that I do, and so I wanna be budgeted,
Actually,
so if
I
have to
believe
stay.
that we do need 12 months of electricity because I believe the town's gonna get a bill for electricity, and I don't believe it's gonna be covered by the contractor. So that's why I think the 230 Lake Street is gonna need to have electricity, or at least plan for it. So my personal feeling is, you're assuming that it's in the contract, we don't have that, and I feel that you should plan for that.
And that's kind of where I was going with, then maybe the propane and the building maintenance and custodial lines make more sense,
Okay,
right? So if the building does get paid, those are gonna disappear.
Yes, correct.
Rob, go ahead.
Sorry.
Two things.
The difference though.
This isn't the last time, this can be revisited.
Correct.
Yep.
Sorry.
So I do want an answer. I want an answer.
You can't handle the truth.
I want to know whether it's coming or not, or whether it's covered or not by the contractor, prior to submitting, our final budget. I would encourage, for the moment, to vote against the amendment, because I think it's irresponsible, and I don't mean that aggressively, but I know it sounds aggressive, but I don't think it'd be irresponsible to cut it by 50% with so many unknowns. I think there's other areas we could look at to I would be, like fuel, I'd be more comfortable with. Building maintenance, I'm more comfortable with. But this is an unknown. So if Chief McIntyre comes back to us next month, or we get a note from Christina saying, hey, Chief McIntyre said that's gonna be covered by Grove Construction, then absolutely, I'll vote in favor of that $6,500.
So, let me ask Charlie, since you started with the motion, do you wanna continue on? Do you wanna swing for a lower number, which the chief, or do you wanna table this and wait till he tell us about construction and then make a decision? How would you want to proceed on your motion? Before I call a vote.
I would like to call a vote on it.
You would like to?
Call a vote on it.
Okay, so, is there any other discussion on the motion to amend the line from 13 to 6.5? Walter?
The chief sounded to me like he was willing to accept a 50-50 deal, and that's all anyone could ask. I think if the chief is willing to accept the 9,000 as opposed to the 13, I think we should make a motion to amend that to 9,000 and go with that. If we've made a mistake, it can be corrected. But in the spirit of what we're trying to do, this is the chief that offered this figure. So I make the motion, we accept his offer and amend it to 9,000.
So I understand what you're saying, so I think the question is, you can amend this motion if the person who made the amendment takes it as a friendly.
Point of
change.
order.
Yes, go ahead.
So you have to vote on his amendment, yes or no. If that gets voted down,
Okay.
then you
That's
can
what I was,
propose another amendment.
that's what I was trying to
Yes.
talk about, how do you handle this? Is that right, Christina?
Yes, it is, yep.
Can I just ask
I
one
didn't want to
question? before
interrupt
you go on?
Rob.
Sorry, before you go on. Just because you said, no matter what, you think that there's going to be billed for 12 months, why would you think that? If the building is gone, right, let's say it's gone in March, why would there be a bill for that address for 12 months? You clearly
Because
said that.
when they build when there's a construction project, there's power that goes to that
Right.
project site, and that lot will become a project site. There'll be a temporary service where they plug extension cords and service and lights and to actually build a new facility. So they're building it on power.
On power for
that-
the city.
that
So that would
feeds
be,
that.
so if they're building it, they're gonna be building it for 10 months beyond March, you said. right?
Potentially 12,
Oh, 12.
10 to
So-
12 months.
Okay, and is there any reason to believe that they wouldn't be starting in March? I mean, anything from the company stating that they're not, you're waiting for grants, what's the situation?
It'll depend on
No.
weather, I would think, as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, it could be a
it's-
storm, huge,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right, I mean, the hope is that it's mud season and they can get in
Right.
and do the demolition and be able to work because it's a state road versus a back road, but again, those are.
So the biggest no guarantee, truthfully, is weather too.
We don't know
Right.
weather, we don't know road bans, we don't, I mean,
Plagues.
we feel pretty confident that they're gonna go forward with everything, but.
Okay, so I was trying to find a way to get this done the fastest. What I've been told is procedurally, we can't consider Walter's
Correct.
motion until after we've closed discussion and voted on the original motion. So I'd like to do that, unless there's somebody who wants to say. So I'm gonna stop discussion, and we're gonna vote on the motion to amend line 410 for electricity for the police department to $6,500 from the current proposed $13,000. So all in favor of the motion, which will change the number from 13,000 to 6,500, please signify by raising their hand and saying aye.
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 Against?
Nay.
The motion carries 4-2.
Mr. Chair, I'm keeping a total too for you,
Right.
so that you know.
Okay. So I also, before we go to your next motion,
Yep.
I would like to say, I agree with Rob, that I would like to hear back from the administration. I don't know exactly who that's gonna be. To talk to the contractor and confirm, are they expecting us to supply them power with no charge to them? Are they planning to set up a temporary? We would like to hear back that. If it turns out that we need to provide
I'll put that on my.
construction electricity, I would certainly
Yep.
go back and reconsider this question.
Correct.
Once you get the answer, I'll put it on my list to make sure I get it back to them for you.
And then somewhere along the line of that construction activity, there will be a shell of a building that will have all the lights inside, they'll be lit the whole time they're working there. So in a short time, it will be back to being basically like it is now. So it's not gonna be 10 months of just running electric drills and compressors.
Right,
It'll be a few months of outside work, the building will be built, the lights will be on, you'll be kind of back to status quo. So you won't be not paying, if we were paying for it, it would be being back to the, basically what it is now for a good portion of that 12-month construction period, right? Did that make any sense?
it makes total sense. I
Okay.
mean, there's a building that's gonna be gone, and there'll be an assembled building going up and during that process, but again, I struggle with the idea that because you hire somebody to buy, say a car, that they're gonna put gas in it until you take ownership of it. Sometimes you get a brand new car from the dealership and there's no gas in it. So I don't think they're gonna pay for electricity.
That's
I think, I've never seen that. I've seen line items, but ultimately it comes in your budget as a homeowner or a person building a home, that you're paying for your electricity, but I've only seen it billed to the customer.
Certainly.
So,
I see it on the residential
Yeah.
side, it's the burden of the homeowner, right?
Yeah.
I can't speak for the commercial side of things, really,
I think,
He may have a point, or he may be,
Yeah, I'll get the answer for you, because it's a good question,
I
but
think the
just.
problem here is that we have difference of opinions, but they're only opinions. So let's go back and get the
Yeah, I'll
facts
get the
and
answer
and
for
then
you.
we'll make sure this is resolved
Right,
correctly.
absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion to 4210, 411, PD, heating and propane, to amount of 3,300.
Anyone want to second that?
I missed the number again.
3,300.
No, what line?
You sure,
Oh.
you sure you don't mean 3,500?
42,
He wants to cut the 6,600 in half to
Like the other one was in
3,300.
half.
That'd be 3,500, wouldn't it?
No,
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 I have
half of
60.
66 is
Oh, no,
33.
66 is last year, 7,000
You're
this
right.
year.
Can I amend?
Okay.
Yeah, say it
Sorry,
again.
I'd like to amend 4210, 411 to amount of
There you
$3,500.
go.
Thank you.
Did I hear you?
I'll second it for the sake
I'm
of discussion.
lost. I
Okay.
got a hearing.
Yep.
problem,
Walter,
and I'm not-
Walter, let me recap. We're looking at the next line in the budget, which is heating and propane, line 411.
Okay,
And it's currently proposed to be $7,000, and Charlie is making a motion to amend that to 3,500. And we have
I'll second it.
and we have a second, Rob already seconded, so now we can discuss. I have a comment, but I will wait and see what other people say first. Anyone else want to make a comment? Mike?
I have the same rationale.
So the comment I actually would make is, I don't disagree with your thinking. The problem that I have is that heating is not a uniform expense throughout the year. The first 3 months of a calendar year use most of the heating bill.
Yeah.
So cutting the heating bill in half probably is something I won't support. But I'm willing to listen to other people's thoughts.
So I'll say the same thing I just did, so by November, December, how much of the building will be up and we have to be heating it inside by then? Maybe.
Maybe.
So-
Right,
I don't
I
know,
think,
yeah,
I think
I'm
for a
guessing,
10 to
right,
12
it's-
month, I don't think we should, but it's
I mean,
not, it's not
if
impossible.
Shell is up,
It
it's
could-
enclosed, right? In some way, I don't know.
I have a question for Christine.
Yep.
Go ahead.
What was expended out of the contingency fund this year so far?
Nothing, but we are proposing from the library to pay for, they're doing some electrical repairs in the basement. I don't have an exact number, but I'm bringing that to you so that you know.
Rolf?
I think it was right around 10 grand. We didn't want to take it from the building fund because we needed the building fund to move them, the capital reserve. So I went to the select board and asked them to, if we could take it from the contingency because we hadn't used it yet. And they need to, and they're placing its electrical work and that has to be done in their
So
basement.
this is news to me. You're gonna bring it to us, what, when we consider
Once I
the
get-
library? Or when you consider, when you know what the answer is?
No, that's out of 2022 budget. We just let you
Oh.
know what we've spent. On the contingency, we let you know what the board's approved.
Okay.
So I didn't have a final number for you, so I wasn't gonna give that to you tonight until I had a final number, but it's anticipated that we're taking 10,000 out of the contingency,
So,
which is that $25,000 budget line.
okay. Did
The
I
reason I
answer?
say, the reason I ask is because it would be reasonable, that would be a reasonable avenue to go down if this doesn't happen. And,
Right.
you know, I just want to make sure that, you know, if we're continually historically spending the contingency fund, then we're gonna need to look at increasing the contingency fund, if we
Normally, I
keep
think,
having all these what ifs.
normally I think we try not to spend it, but I'm just trying to find the line, hang on. Contingency, we spent 2019, 13,000, nothing in 2020. 2021, we spent 13,800 and roughly 10,000 will be spent.
And there's 20,000 in it, right?
There's 25.
25,000.
Yeah.
So I guess I want to clarify what we were talking before about electricity and construction site and the new building. I'd actually like to make sure that that's resolved as a broader question. Is how are all utilities going to be handled during construction? Is it a situation where we vacate the building and turn it over to the construction company, and then they're responsible for everything until they say it's done and we take possession? Or are they expecting us to provide any utilities during the construction process? Or, I just want to get it resolved and clarified so that we make sure that we're not shorting you, but we're not leaving money in there that we're pretty confident you're not going to spend.
Right. I'll try to get the answer to the question.
Thank you. So.
Do you feel like it would be safer to leave 75% in this particular
I
line?
would. I'm not going to vote for a 50% reduction, but that's.
I agree too.
I will rescind my motion.
Christina, can I let him do that? I don't have to have.
I can rescind my own motion.
Okay,
Were you first and second as long as they both agree?
You can withdraw it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Charlie going to withdraw the motion and make a new one.
Yep. So I'll make a motion to 4210 for 11 to an amount of
52.5, I think.
yeah, 55,250.
Right,
That was correct.
I was off by a decimal, but I had the number right.
This one.
All right, would somebody second that?
I'll second.
Sue will second that. So now we have we have a motion now for consideration. We're now considering a motion to amend line 411 of the police department budget for heating and propane from the proposed amount of $7,000 to a new amount of $5,250, which has been made and seconded. As a point of order, that's 75% of the original amount. Walter, you want to say something?
I was just throwing in the second. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay. So I think we've discussed this already. Does
Yeah.
anyone else have a discussion point? So I'm gonna move to vote on this so we can keep moving forward. So we're gonna vote now.
I just texted.
The proposal is to
Wait,
revise the heating and propane amount budgeted for 2023 budget year, which is line 411, to $5,250. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
That's 5, 6, Carol?
No.
Or you give me a no?
I was waiting for your no, yes.
Yes, I'm asking your, what's your vote? So that's 5-1. All right. Charlie, you're on a roll. You want to do another one?
Yep, I'll make a motion to 4210 431
Yeah.
PD building maintenance
Mhm.
to an amount of $1,500.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
So, okay, so we have a motion to amend line 431, which is building maintenance, from the proposed amount of $3,000 to a new proposed amount of $1,500. This seems fairly consistent, so I don't know if there's any discussion on
I have
this.
the same rationale.
Yeah.
My rationale doesn't change.
Anyone else have, is it clear what we're doing here, Walter?
Yep.
Anyone else want to make a comment or are we ready to vote? Chief, you concerned again that you could end up with the building for the whole year and that, or is
We're
this-
rolling blackouts and wool blankets, we're good to go, and
There you go.
building maintenance, I think that's an appropriate line to,
This is-
I mean,
this is
that's
one
better
of the
than
safer
electrical.
ones to do,
Yeah,
alright.
that's a more
Okay.
stable line, I mean, that's a maintenance item, we're not doing maintenance to the building, so.
Okay.
I mean, we had to do the hot water, I mean, I would have not done that if I could have
If
got
you
away
could
with
have
it.
avoided it, I got
This
you.
would have to be something really bad that happens.
I understand.
Right.
So, I think we're done with discussion. I'm gonna call a vote. So we're gonna vote to amend line 431, which is building maintenance, to a new amount of $1,500. All in favor, raise a hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a 5-1-0 vote again. All right.
I'd like to make a motion to amend 4210 640 PD custodial services to an amount of $2,000.
Walter, you want to second this one?
I'll second.
You were trying to second things and I didn't get you in there, so I'll give you this
Two,
one.
sorry.
2,000.
2,000.
Again, 50%.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think that's accurate, but I don't know why that.
Same rationale
I got you, I'm just,
for my motion.
Oops, next page.
Feeling amazing.
so,
Yeah,
Chief,
see, it was
is
a
it-
typo.
There was a
is there something there you want us to know, or is that not a
Right,
problem to worry about?
I had like $9,600 in mind for some reason, it was a typo,
Oh,
so.
Oh, all right.
But what did you, I'm sorry, what was your
So
amendment?
basically what he's amending is your custodial cleaning service, line 640, to cut it in half. From
From 4 to 2.
4,000 to 2,000.
But you had 9,640 in that?
No,
Yeah.
9,000.
I
Oh,
had it as
typo.
actuals are the typo on
Oh,
one of these
sorry.
forms, so,
Okay.
yeah, sorry, 2,000, yeah, I can live with that.
Okay, any other discussion or comment
Yeah.
anyone want to make? I'll call a vote. All
I
in
can-
favor, raise a hand and say aye, please.
Aye.
I used
We
to
have
live in that building
600.
when I worked for the custodial here.
And I would like to say again, if we learn
Okay.
different about the construction, we should come back to some of these lines.
Yeah, I
for
think I've
sure.
already promised.
Even
that
if
you would do
maybe
that.
they might be higher than we think. So,
We'll have plenty of money because you won't have anybody working for you, that's all.
yeah.
All right, so Charlie, I assume you
I am
don't have
done.
another.
No.
Does anyone else have a proposed amendment to any line in the police department budget? So, I'm just trying to real quick,
I have a total for you. if you
oh,
need
that's
it.
what I was working on, so that's what I need in order to move the whole budget, so you have it, just give it to me.
1,238,945.
Okay, so if there's no other motions to amend, I'm gonna move the overall budget. So we are now voting on a budget
Still 2%.
for the police department, which was section 4210, for a total amount, a total amended amount of $238,945.
Do you say that correct?
Yes, sorry.
So
We
I
just
don't
vote.
think there's any discussion, so we'll just vote. All in favor, say aye and raise a hand.
Aye.
What, did I miss something?
What if somebody wants to say something?
Go ahead, do you have a
no.
discussion?
Oh,
Yeah, we thought.
before we close the,
No, I'm just saying, yeah.
No, he looked around.
I did, I looked around and I didn't see any
I'm sorry.
any
All right.
discussion.
Yeah.
No, I understand that we're moving the question, we can also discuss that. I just looked around the room and didn't see anyone that was looking, and I'm trying
I
to
was crunching numbers
get
at
us,
the time.
I'm trying to get us out of here, not too late. So let me say it again, we are voting on the police department budget, which is section 4210, in the amended amount of $1,238,945. There's no further discussion that I see, so we are ready to vote. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
aye.
And against?
Abstain.
Abstain?
Well, because I voted two ways on the entire.
Okay,
That's
yeah, yeah.
So we have a 4, 1 against, 1 abstain, so we are,
Oh, because you voted against.
Some of them I voted against, and one of them I voted for.
I didn't, but I voted against it.
Yes, I guess theoretically that means I approve
So it
the
carries.
whole thing, but no.
so it carries.
No, I don't.
Chief, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'll
Makes sense to
I'll
me.
try to get your answers.
I
Yeah,
appreciate that, thank you.
You want to bet before I leave?
I don't even buy lottery tickets when they're $1 billion, I'm not a bettor.
Well, those are definitely a scam.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so let's now move on to the fire department. So I'm going to introduce a motion to consider the fire department budget for next fiscal year, which is section 4220, in the proposed amount of $1,254,250.
No, you have to do department.
I'm on fire department.
Yeah, you have to do 2023 department, not Board of Selectmen.
20.
What we have to move is the 2023 department number. You stated
What did I
the Board
say?
of Selectmen number.
I'll make a
This
motion.
time
And they're different.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see what you're
The PD
saying.
one wasn't different.
So what we move is always the department number.
Okay,
So
so
motion to approve the Board of Selectmen,
$1,253,119.
no,
The department number. And we the way we've done it in the past, I don't know if this is because of legal reasons.
It's a point of order, I'm trying to make a
Oh.
motion. Did you not catch
Or
that?
was Paul making a motion already?
I was making a
He was
motion.
making a
I
motion.
basi-
Oh, you were making a
I basically have always been making a motion to introduce it, and then we go into discussion. What
Okay,
Charlie,
all right.
what Charlie was saying, and I was reading this number, he said I should have been reading this number.
Okay,
That's,
all right.
so we have a motion to consider the fire department budget, which is section 4220, in the amount of $1,253,119.
I second.
Charlie seconds.
Yep.
So we now have a motion that's been seconded, we're opening for debate, and as we will start with asking the fire chief to,
And just about this, in the past, what we've always done is we move the department number, and then we will amend to agree to the budget Board of Selectmen number, if that's the case.
Yep.
So we'll find essentially the line that is actually different between department and Board of Selectmen, and then amend to that.
I'm just gonna point that line out because there is a change,
Yeah.
and it should have been probably changed in the department head budget as well. If you look at the Medicare line under 422225.
yep,
When I was looking at the budget, I asked Ben if it was correct because it didn't look right, and we found out it wasn't right, and it got corrected in the select board budget only. The 10,583 in the select board budget is the correct number for the Medicare costs.
It says, wait a minute, what line?
220, 225.
It says 5279.
You're at
Or did I open it
42,
wrong?
4220.
Fire department
Fire
Medicare.
department, 4220.
4220,
on the right
225.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not sure what
40,
I'm looking at.
it's
I
on
split
the
pages by mistake.
previous
So-
page.
thank you, thank you.
It
thank you.
wasn't budgeted correctly on the department head budget. It probably should have been corrected on both of them when Bob corrected it. And that's,
I hear what you're saying, I appreciate your bringing that to us. I think what we will do is, you gotta pay Medicare, we'll make a motion to amend to that. Charlie's right, in the past, when
Yeah.
he was running the committee for the past 2 years,
Yeah.
he always went with the department budget. So, is there anything else in the budget that you would like to talk about and bring to our attention and
We will amend that.
discuss?
Well, I think you got the notes. Just to kind of overview the payroll lines. There's no new positions this year. There's some promotion. We had some people leave, and there's new people in the positions. And so there's the 4% that we got at the beginning of the year. There's a captain that moved to a deputy chief's title, along with the pay that goes along with that. Then there's, we had a senior paramedic leave, and then, hire a more junior level entry kind of pay. So that's why there's minus percents and so on and so forth. The moving down, overtime luckily goes up, not quite as much, right? Because theoretically that would go up that 4 or 5% because one, you raise wages 4%, and then two, some people would grab another day or 2 days off depending on their time here and the personnel policy around accrued time. Some of that movement with personnel and positions changes people to salary, so it affects that. The other side of that is, if we remember back to particularly last year, when we really decreased the part-time line based on our part-time needs and part-time usage, I said at the time, right, that would be finding that balance point because it's the appropriate way to look at it to move forward, planning for the majority, if not all, of your open shifts based on vacation being overtime. That's what you can kind of guarantee. We're going to give an employee a day off or a week off, and the people that we know will work are the full-timers on overtime, right? But we still have at least a dedicated group of a couple, less than a handful at this point, that will grab those shifts, and it's a nice benefit. So it's finding that balance. So there's an increase to that this year. It's 17%, just shy of $5,000, but that's kind of where that balance comes in and makes it so that the overtime request isn't $85,000 or $90,000 this year. Really, once you move past personnel, real big increases, billing, we've talked about this in years past. Our ambulance billing is, every dollar that Comstar, our billing company, collects for us, they collect 6.5 cents on that dollar. That's the contract. That's still by far the cheapest rate that's out there. And so that's a great number. But when you look at revenues, and I've got a little bit to say about that in a minute, when you look at revenues, our revenues year after year after year continue to increase. So we have to increase that number. And if we don't, then it's a negative, and I got to find it in some other line within the budget. So that number is based on, real true projections, right? We conservatively estimate revenues for the purpose of this process, but I've got to be a little bit more, try to be a little bit closer to that, $425,000 plus number that we are probably going to collect this next year, and budget accordingly. So that's a big increase. And then really moving through the rest of the budget, dispatch is up this year. This is a known thing. A couple years back, I probably talked about it, which was that there was a big system overhaul, a physical plant where, a new simulcast radio system was built for the cost of about $1 million. We had a lot of capital reserve money within the dispatch system to pay for that, but not all of it. And so the anticipation was actually last year for the budget to go up about $2,500. But there was still some reserve funds to offset last year. So really that $2,600 is a function of that. And although we'll never see it disappear, right, in a couple of years that will go away and then hopefully smooth out any increases in their budget. Heating oil is based on the new fuel price, which is a 57% increase over last year. Right now, gas and diesel is a 57% increase. I can guarantee that number will be overexpended at the end. It's pretty close. I think it's going to be a good number, but I can guarantee that we'll spend more than $24,000. Diesel went to the same deal that gasoline went to, which is basically what the state can get for bulk pricing when they pick it up in Portsmouth. The way unleaded worked through the majority of the year it was about $1 cheaper than what you'd see on the pumps. Now $1 cheaper for diesel is closer to $5 a gallon, $4 something and $5 a gallon, and so that pales in comparison to the $2.20 a gallon that we've been paying for the last couple of years. So there's a pretty sizable increase there. And then there's maintenance lines. We continue the cost of maintenance goes up, like every industry. That industry has to charge more per hour because they're paying more per hour. And we're not certified diesel mechanics or pump mechanics, and a lot of stuff has to go out. The majority of that is preventative. When you look at this year's actuals, Engine 2, there was about a $21,000 project to repair damage to the PTO, and then subsequent, not so much damage, but retuning and reworking the transmission to go along with that repair. And so those are the big highlights.
Yeah, particularly the vehicles. I did some work on that. If you take the vehicle lines for 2022, we essentially appropriated $13,500 for vehicles. So far this year, we've spent $35,575 on vehicles because, of course, the major issue. And if you now add what's being requested, we're at $24,250. That doesn't seem unreasonable to me, that particular increase, with all things considered.
So I actually had a discussion with the chief about this today, and we said it's really too bad that we can't, this doesn't just apply to the fire department, this applies to PD, to highway. It's too bad we can't just budget for preventative maintenance, like the normal preventative maintenance, and then have that what if contingency come from somewhere else. So like that $21,000 pump repair, the blown head gasket in the cruiser, whatever that, something happens with the front end loader and there's a catastrophic failure of that money's not coming out of the operating budget. But in that way you're just budgeting for preventative maintenance. Obviously, I'm intimately familiar with these, not only like part of it, but those numbers kind of, I am involved in coming up with those numbers, or some of those numbers, and some of them require more than others, like, ladder truck is required to be tested, and the pumps are required to be tested, and there's different expenses involved with those. And then a lot of those other things, you're just, okay, well, what are we looking down the road? What are we gonna have to spend on this piece of equipment down the road? Is this gonna fail this year? Is that gonna fail this year? A lot of that's a guessing game.
Yep.
So,
I'm just saying, I think we're providing an appropriate buffer
yeah.
for possible damage that needs to be fixed, or breaks that need to be fixed, as far as those lines go. Can I ask about, you probably told us already, but I'm interested in the last line, 4220, 893, fire detail.
Mm-hmm.
So was this budgeted in a different way in the past?
No.
Or is this something that's new?
It was something that it was in progress prior to COVID. It was a goal in 2020 to start a detail pay line. So if we have kind of that extra event, like the PD has extra duties, but we don't get them that frequently. The swim with a mission event, right? That's an extra duty that we can provide the service because we have the equipment, but it's not really in the purview to cover a race event like that. Or football games for a number of years we were covering. We were just an EMT and forestry, and then it was another provider to work with the therapist there, or trainer, I guess it is. And so, our average call EMT makes about $17 an hour. So to get them to cover a football event of 2 or 3 hours and maybe see $40, maybe see $25 to give up a Saturday afternoon. Not that Newfound football isn't a lot of fun to watch, but to give up their Saturday afternoon, right? Yeah. That's a big ask. So the hope was to move to some type of a detail pay system that, whether we fell at $35 an hour, 40 or 50 or whatever the number was, that it's kind of tangible, that you could, then take your wife or your husband out to dinner after ditching them for the entire afternoon, right?
So you consider this to be an appropriate incentive, and also a nice way for us to kind of keep that employee working.
Yeah, and so what we did as we moved into 2021, and there was some need to do some detail stuff with the state, is that we instituted the detail pay policy. It's $45 an hour. If I work a detail, it's $45 an hour. If Rob were to work a detail, it's $45 an hour. And the junior person that's certified to do that job, it's $45 an hour, because it's the same job that we're being asked to do. We bill then $65 an hour for that person, right? And so after, depending on whether it's a retirement system person or not, you're seeing roughly $15 an hour, give or take a few bucks, as far as revenue goes. So that was a new program. When we first did it, it just kind of came out of the payroll lines. And so with last year's budget, we instituted this line to say, here's roughly, and we budgeted at $5,000 or whatever it was. But, and I think, sorry.
And you feel like it's much clearer in how the money's being spent, in a way too. Because it's not getting mixed in with
and so we're not doing as much
like
football. That 4,000 is basically those couple of race events during the year that we cover. That's a pretty standard number. I know I need X amount of people on a boat or the other boat, X amount of people on an ambulance, and the car and myself for a couple hours on a Saturday morning. So there's revenue that more than offsets that number.
So year to date is $4,492 in offsetting revenue on that.
Yeah, cool. You have another thing about that?
No, I just was asking if we build anything to it. I thought we'd done the.
I had emailed Bob to
fix
that,
it.
but I
Okay.
don't know if it got done.
Yeah, because it's confusing to us, because it says actual to date this year is 0, and
Yeah,
you're saying it is a
I know there
program
was.
this
I
year.
know there was
you were saying you have
money
spent.
on that line.
Yeah.
It happens, right? And throughout the year, just for convenience, it's charged to one line, and then there's some kind of, you know, correction done at the end of the year.
Yep.
Question.
Go ahead, Rob.
Radio equipment. You've probably already explained this. So there was a 32,000. The 2022 appropriation was 32.2.
Mm-hmm.
Of which that was expended. And
This is line 817.
This is line 817.
There's two radio lines, that's why.
I'm sorry.
It's radio equipment,
I should say
817.
that. Yeah.
Are you on a different line than
No, I'm
817?
on 817.
You're on 817.
Yeah.
But this is the one that at the town meeting 2 or 3 years ago, there was a warrant article approved. There was
This
a
is our
small down
contract.
payment and then
Yeah.
3 years. This is one of the 3-year payments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Just
This is essentially money that we've already agreed to
answers
pay.
my question. I was just
So the voters have already approved this. We would be
Yeah.
hard pressed to
Absolutely.
reduce it.
That's
I
right.
don't think we can.
Can't.
No, I'm not looking
Yeah.
to reduce it. I just wasn't
It was an order.
looking at it historically. It's
Yep.
not less. So.
Can I ask about 350 medical expenses, infection control physicals? I know it's been your hope to put more in this line, trying to incentivize more firefighters to get routine physicals.
Mm-hmm.
And that hasn't come to fruition yet? Is that
No,
what I'm
it
seeing
has.
here?
So what you'll see is initially when we started that program, it was at $6,600. And the idea was that would get us through our normal
Yeah.
physicals that we've always done on our full-time staff.
Yeah.
And that would allow us to start the process of, it was like 10 or 8 or something like that, call members, and then we could do it in a second year. That number is down to 5,250. That's based on, you know, realistically, when we looked at it, we have a staff that has been here and they're kind of hired based on certain premises, right? And that, quite honestly, they wouldn't be subject to a physical. So everybody was given the opportunity to opt in. Every new employee now does not have that opportunity. So every new employee gets a full entry-level NFPA physical, whether they're call or not. And so that number funds where we're at now. What we had for buy-in with the program, what we anticipate to spend this year.
So
what
you
we'll spend doing
anticipate to spend
annuals.
5,000 this year still?
Yeah,
So right now we
so here's
spent
it.
567.
Physicals, because of scheduling at the hospital, they're typically done in November, December.
Okay.
So everybody was done literally in the last 2 weeks.
Thank you.
So those bills have not come yet.
Yeah, I remember you said that last year. It's an end of year expense is what you told us last year.
So,
Yeah.
Can I ask, so the same theory for the fire department is you guys are moving, right? I mean, you're all coming, they're not going.
They're building the
We're
building
not
the entire
moving.
year.
They're
They're in the
building
building the
staying.
entire year.
Yeah.
Okay.
If anything, their numbers might be slightly higher than what?
Well, the heating oil is quite the jump. I mean, the heating oil.
Well, that's just the price of oil.
The
Well,
cost.
I understand the diesel on the, for the vehicles and stuff like that. But from 11,250 to 17,500, it says here, actually, you've only spent, unless all the bills haven't come in yet, $7,005 as of 11/28/22.
Sure.
So
So
where's the,
based on the previous conversation and that roughly 75%, I don't know if that number, that was the number that it got changed to, right? It was 75, but it's somewhere in that 65 to 70% number is what we spend through April, May. And then the remaining roughly 25% gets expended over the months of November and December, right? So we spend maybe $100 as an average a month during the summer months because our hot water comes off of the boiler.
Right.
But those big $6,000 and $8,000 and $1,000 diesel or heating fuel bills don't come until November and December.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll spend the 11-ish or whatever it was, that was budgeted last year. And then that number is based on, so this year's heating fuel price is $3.80 a gallon versus $2.49 last year. So that 57% increase is That's 56%, but it was close enough. I knocked a few $100s off thinking we could make it work.
Okay.
But just to confirm from a physical plant point of view, you guys don't move, you guys don't really change anything until the new building is built, and then probably sometime in '24, you'll move, and so next year we'll be having an interesting discussion, but for this year, we just keep running that
It
same
just
building
runs
the
the
same.
Then we'll have the
Well,
opposite
hope
question.
will be this time next year, you know, unlike most of the unknowns, I think we'll have a little clearer picture as far as whether that move-in date's in March, May, God forbid, August. You know, so, yeah, I definitely think budgeting around that issue is gonna be a little bit easier next year, but we'll see. And then, of course, it's a brand new building that, you know, we can only make some assumptions, and hopefully we can do the same thing we've done all along, which is say, you know, Farmington realized some pretty significant cost savings. Let's be a little conservative and not expect that, but we should see a pretty hefty reduction. So it'll be a fun exercise between Jim and I. He likes building spreadsheets. He doesn't let on.
Walter,
Is there any way that we could effectively reduce the heating cost by maybe making a rule if the doors stay closed more times? Or is there something we can do cooperatively with you instead of going after you piecemeal like we did the chief? Is there some way we can control something in the spirit of what we're trying to do without going piecemeal after anything? Would it be easier for you if you made a recommendation, a possibility here or there, to save us a little bit without us going after it piecemeal?
Yeah. So no, there's not. So, and I say that, Walter, because I want to, especially when it comes to heating, there's always going to be that moment whether the door clicker's not clicking around the 40-foot fire engine, and in February for some random reason the door gets left open, but for the most part those doors open and then they shut immediately. And yes, through a 12 by 12 door, 10 by 12 door, whatever the actual size is, you'll lose a whole bunch of heat. The hope certainly moving forward, once we're in the new building, is we'll lose less because it's a radiant system, and Farmington's Modine, you know, their heaters, like a traditional garage, barely ever kick on. And so there's really not that beyond what we attempt to do already. And so if I can, I would like to throw out there that, you know, I think what's really important to look at, particularly with the fire department budget, is that, you know, we have to, just like you all are doing, right, is we can look at it and say, boy, inflation's whatever number we want to call it today, it's 7, it's 8, it's 9, it's 10%. And I think there's some people that can look at it, I'll be very honest, I look at it and say, well, we've had 9% inflation and I'm at 7, well, it's not great, but it's pretty good if you only look at that number in a vacuum, right? But expenditures and inflation go up 9%, but what happens, and not to say that anybody's in this room has, because mine certainly hasn't, but there's some effect on what people are making too. And so when you look at those same numbers, you know, people's hourly wages are up roughly 5%. Now that still creates a delta, right, of roughly 4%, but it just recognizes that there's multiple pieces to this equation. And when you look at those two numbers, inflation and wages, it's expenditures and it's revenues, right? And so it's the task of this committee, which is to look at expenditures and revenues and improve those two things. The fire department, yes, is asking for a 7% increase in expenditures. However, our conservative revenue estimates for this year are up 21%. The net effect of that is that if we have expenditures exactly what I've requested, and we have revenues exactly what I've said they will at least be, then it will be a negative 1% change to the overall amount of tax dollars that go to fund the fire department. It's right there that last year we sat here as a group, as a budget committee and a department head, and said, we're going to approve a set of expenditures and a set of revenues that will make the tax burden for the fire department $709,000 for the year. The budget that I'm requesting will make the tax burden $700,000 for the fire department next year. So a decrease of roughly $10,000. Now you apply that back to what we really anticipate on seeing in revenues, and it's closer to $600,000. So I understand it's money in and it's money out, but that's truly what it is, which is, it's not, and that 7% increase, and I apologize, I meant to read my notes better, but that 7% increase is there as a function of how we've gotten those revenues there, right? We've put in place the right staff to do the right job. In particular, when it comes to administration, and not myself, my assistant more so, that we've put in place a person that has changed our annual billing revenue with not a whole lot of increase in the overall call volume and no change in the last 5 years in our billing rates from low 300s, high $200,000 in billing revenue to over $400,000 in revenue. And so it stinks that it's a 7% increase, and I understand that. But when the net effect, because of the severe increase in revenues, is negative 1%. It's not less than 1%. It's negative 1%. The town of Bristol will raise less taxes to fund this fire department budget than it did to fund last fire department budget. So it's hard for me to look, and certainly if we can save some money, right, then it helps other areas of the budget, and I appreciate that. But this is that budget that guarantees, or most appropriately guarantees, that $600,000 in revenue coming in, or $550, or whatever the math works out to.
So you attribute that increase in revenue strictly to that person that's handling the billing?
There's certainly increases, right? Our call volume has increased in percentages over the years, but when we're collecting 18% more in revenues, it's not just, it's billing revenue is a big chunk of that. It's the fact that we've worked with the board over the last couple of years in particular to change the ambulance contracts. Last year, the year before last, we collected $164,000 from our contract towns. That was in addition to the billing revenue. Last year, we collected $199,000, and this year we'll collect $223,000. And that's all big changes that really look at this budget and say, what are those numbers that are attributed to the ambulance, and then those costs for those towns. So we're working hard, not, 7% doesn't seem like control in the budget, but it could certainly be a lot higher for a lot of different areas. We work hard to control that, but we work just as hard to increase those revenue numbers. So that's my little soapbox for the night, because it is a piece of the whole,
Okay, appreciate your sharing all that with us. So I'm gonna
Can I make a motion
ask
to amend the Medicare?
for motions,
Yeah,
yes.
I'll make a motion to amend 4220, 225 fire department Medicare to an amount of $10,583.
Can I get a second?
Second that.
We got Walter first. So we have a motion to amend line 225 of the fire department budget, which is the Medicare amount, to $10,583. This is what we talked about before. This
Yeah,
sounds
this is
like
the correction.
It was a correction. It was a budgeting error, and it needs to be fixed. I'll ask. I don't think there's any discussion. Does anyone want to discuss this? Let's go ahead and vote. All in favor? A hand and an eye, please.
Aye.
We had six, unanimous, so 6. That was good. Are there any other changes that anyone wants to propose for consideration by the committee?
I went through this particular budget for about 45-50 minutes, particularly focusing on the vehicle lines, and I feel like these numbers are appropriate.
I didn't spend as much time as you, but I didn't find anything obvious,
And I asked the questions that I had.
And I didn't see anything obvious, I didn't hear anything from the chief that changed my mind, so unless anyone else has additional discussion, which I'm not hearing, I'm gonna move the question on the bottom line. So, we are gonna vote on the fire department budget, which is section 4220, in the amended amount of $1,254,259. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
That is 6-4. I don't need to call for the other choices because we've all voted in favor.
I'll make a motion to move forestry 4230 at an amount of $3,450.
No, wrong number, at least according to my spreadsheet.
No, it's right.
I have
right, he's right.
3,450, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I have, yeah.
3,450.
Oh, that's not the number I thought I heard, sorry. My mistake.
Yep.
3,450, okay? Could I get a second?
I'll second.
Sue. All right, we have a motion and a second.
This is level funded.
Forestry Department, is there anything here with, that you want to, Chief, that you want to explain or bring to our attention?
Well, because I feel like I need to be helpful. I feel as though I need to be
We
helpful.
appreciate it, we think you are helpful.
I would certainly throw out there that I think it would be a good year because we've done well over the last several years with the forestry grant, and we need that money to offset, but we really don't need anything. So I think 810 and 812,
Yeah.
which is new equipment and hose, could both go to $1. And then we can kind of see how that plays out over the next couple of years. I know it's only $1,000.
Because you feel like you can get those grant
Try
funded.
it. Well, I just typically what we would do is keep that funded because then we can turn that $1,000 into $2,000 with the grant. We've gotten pretty good with that grant stuff that if we don't get it this year, or if we turn it down, then I think it's the right year to do that.
Okay.
So. But $1 would still allow for, there's some other grants that are in and out, right, and allow you to kind of make those expenditures, so to speak, so. That'd be close to $1,000.
Yep.
Try it.
Within rounding, it is $1,000. So,
I get a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
well, before we do you want to have questions on the whole budget or on the proposal? Because we actually need to make a motion and second it if you want to discuss that, I think.
Did we make a motion on?
We did, he suggested it, but no one has made a motion, so I need a motion.
All right.
You want to give me that?
I'll make a motion to move forestry for $3,450 for the sake of discussion.
No, I'm sorry, we have that. I thought you were going to make a motion to change new equipment and hose based on what the chief just said, so. Let me stop. What were you going to say?
I just have a question.
Yes,
Chair.
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sure, I
Go
just
ahead.
have to Charlie.
Ask your question.
That's okay, go ahead. Ash, go ahead.
Is the truck staying or going?
Going, hopefully. However, the anticipation would be that that's there for the utility vehicle.
Okay, so next question. Is there any reason we can't roll forestry into the fire department budget?
I've never looked into it anymore, to be honest with you. It's just been there, and yeah.
It's always been that way. It's always been that way.
Yeah. Not really. I wouldn't care either way if Bob had some opinion on it as to why there's some benefit to keeping that line open, that 4230 line open, then
I think what I'm wondering about keeping it open is, as far as grant funding is concerned through the state, if that would be necessary.
well, it is possibly that too, yeah, it's where it is,
But when you overspend it, it comes from the fire department budget. Is that correct? Like the year that you
Yeah, so a couple
overspent
years
because
ago,
of the truck problems.
right.
That money just essentially
We
came
made
out of your
an
fire
offset
budget.
with
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my goal anyway.
So at the end of the day, it is one and the same.
I'll make a motion to reduce 4230,810 to $1 from 500.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Rob to amend the budget line 810 from 500 to 1, seconded by Charlie. Since it's already been suggested by the chief, is there any other discussion? So we'll go ahead and vote on that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have 6, so that passes, 6 in favor.
I'll make a motion to amend 4230-812 to $1.
Okay.
I will second that motion.
Okay, Rob made the motion, Charlie seconded it to amend line 812 of the forestry budget to $1. Again, you have a question, you're ready to vote. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you, Walter. Keep it moving, Paul. All right.
Make a motion unless somebody else wants to make motions.
Nope, you have another motion for forestry?
4230-661, I make a motion to reduce that to $1. And if somebody seconds it, I'd like to speak on that.
Can I get a second? So that I'll second it because I want to speak on it. I'm curious why you know more about this than I do. What's your logic behind that?
So my thought is to reduce that to $1, and then we can go back and revisit the fire department budget and add that money into the fire department budget. And at some point a new line can be created, but for now the thought would be to go back in and increase the general vehicle maintenance line by $1,000 for the fire department. That would cover the utility vehicle.
Which is a fire department vehicle, not a forestry.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if we vote in favor of the motion you just made, which is to reduce forestry line 661 to 1, you would want to go back and reopen the fire department budget and increase what, line 667?
67, yeah.
Once we're done with forestry, that's just my thought process behind it. Obviously, we can't make that decision on this motion, but
No, one isn't contingent on the other. Chief, does that make sense? Do you like that? Do you not like that? Do you have an
Yeah, it's fine.
opinion at all?
It's just something that wasn't really addressed, and when I looked at it, I said, well, it's replacing that. We're still not sure what we're doing, but we're pretty clear on moving trucks around. So that truck is more fire department fleet at this point, and it makes sense to move it into the department's budget.
Can you explain that to me? I guess we didn't talk about this specifically.
So when we bought, yeah, I don't think I really brought it up, to be honest with you. I apologize, but so we would typically use that line for maintenance items and whatnot, and like there's no radio line, so any radio issues or light issues or whatever on the forestry truck. When we bought the utility through the LEPP or LEMP grant funds, the new one, yeah, that is going to replace the forestry truck. At some point, hopefully before the end of the year, I'll be coming to see what we can do with that as far as getting rid of it or sending it to Municipal or whatever the option is. And so that utility isn't forestry, it's the fire department utility truck. So it moving into the fire department budget, I think is perfectly fine. It makes sense.
Yeah, and we have no.
And I think to further, Rob's suggestion of 667 puts it in a line that would traditionally then get charged against the EMS contract accounts, and so it's not a lot, but $200 or $300 goes into that, and we get reimbursed for when it goes to take equipment or people down to the hospital to get meds or pick up orders. So it makes a ton of sense.
Okay, and there's no problem with the state of New Hampshire with forestry, or they don't require us to have a truck, or
No.
that will be the truck, or there's no other.
We're gonna take the engine.
we don't have brush fires.
Typically do.
You're talking to someone that had heat stroke on the top of Sugar Hill here, back around in the forest fire.
Was that the 94?
No, let's see, it had to be, it was before that, because I got out in '89. Anyway, go ahead.
So just to clarify, I mean, it makes sense, but I guess my follow-up question would be, do we need to keep line 661 for the forestry truck open at all? Could we move that all the way to zero, or do you wanna keep it open with $1 that you might actually ever have to charge something to that line?
I think keeping it open for this year at $1 probably makes sense based on when the trucks go and if there's any expenses in the transfer
I'm
or
willing to
whatever.
splurge for $1 for you.
And then, get rid of it next year, so to speak, so.
Okay.
We can vote?
Any other comments, discussion? Are we ready? I think we're ready to vote on this.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we reduce for,
No,
Never
we
mind,
need,
never
we
mind.
need to,
Sorry,
we need
get
to
ahead of
close.
us.
Yes. Okay. So, we're gonna now vote on the motion that's on the table, which is to amend line 661 of the Forestry Department budget, which is for the truck, to $1. It was proposed to be $1,000. We're gonna change that to $1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Got 6 yeses, and we need to do the other choices. Before we do that, let's close out forestry. Before we go back and, I don't wanna go back and do fire while we still.
No.
Does he have another, he has another motion
That's
for
all.
Forestry.
So does anyone else have any amendments they would like to make to the forestry budget? You do?
Yeah.
Go ahead. What do you want to change in forestry?
4230-635, reduce that to $1.
Ah, I missed that one. Good catch.
Vehicle gas, is it?
Now, are we saving this money, or you want to, you really want to move it, right?
Well, that's a good question for the chief.
Well, you should, it makes sense.
So the only thing, I wouldn't
Gas.
necessarily move it, but if it was like $100 as far as saw gas, true fuel, all that expense, that comes out of that line as well.
Oh, like chainsaw fuel.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just
So
vehicle.
Yeah.
if we made it 100, that would work, you're saying?
My goal is to eliminate the forestry.
And I can work on it.
I'm on a roll here.
Yeah.
What did you just say? What is?
So the chief,
What is limited to forestry?
what's that?
What was the word you said? Is limited to forestry?
No,
Eliminate.
Eliminate.
Oh, yeah.
Would you like to?
So
Well, hold on a
Sounds
second.
like this sounds
Hold
like
on a
vendetta of
second.
some
We
sort.
shouldn't go into discussion until we've actually got the motion seconded.
yeah, we do have to have a
So
second. Right.
Rob made a motion to amend line 635 for forestry, which is gas, from $4.50 to $1. Can I get a second?
Somebody seconded for discussion.
I will second it for discussion. Let's go ahead and discuss it. So now we have a motion on the table, it's been seconded, and now we can discuss it. Go ahead, Rob.
All right, so actually, it's more a question more geared towards the chief. So you mentioned true fuel, all that stuff. Where does the money for that stuff for the saws on the trucks that aren't forestry trucks come from?
Equipment maintenance.
Okay, so we could put in, we'd be better off just increasing the equipment maintenance line.
We could do that as well.
Okay, what kind of fuel? What did you just say?
So true fuel is a pre-mixed ethanol-free fuel.
Non-ethanol, oh, okay.
To be used
Gotcha.
in small engines.
Yeah.
Which actually, and I believe the effort has been made not to use that and to use ethanol-free fuel.
Right, same
As of
thing,
late.
but it's
Yeah,
$5,
'cause
$6
true
a
fuel's
gallon.
$25 a gallon now.
Where are you getting ethanol free? You buying it?
There's shops.
You might
Not-
implement
Like
it.
we gotta
Kirk's-
take a
Kirk's
little
have dropped
drive.
down, as it used to be.
Kirk's.
Yeah.
We used to have to go to Shawnee's
Yeah.
a couple,
Got
twice
it.
a year.
Thank you.
whatever.
But you can do it, yeah. Go
Yeah.
twice a year and get everything you need, yeah.
I don't like playing the shell game. I like the fire department and I like the forestry the way it is, and I like seeing it. And if you wanna cut something, I'm all for it. But I'm not for getting rid of the forestry, a separate part. That's just a shell game if you're gonna move it from here to there. I think seeing exactly what we got is better.
So that's my whole intention,
Yeah.
is because that, it operates as one department. There is no forestry department. There is no, things don't,
The
there,
town of Bristol has said we have a forestry department for how many years?
But-
And I don't wanna be part of changing it.
But I think it is important that if we're only spending really $1,000 on forestry, we should be appropriating that amount. That's how much it costs us to
Right.
essentially run our forestry operations.
I'm just a little confused. What exactly do you do in forestry? What exactly is, like the down trees? I mean, what do we do? What is,
No, so forestry is your brush fire incidents, right? So
Just-
if you
just
do
brush
have
fires.
something on Sugar Hill or Peaked Hill, and that was 15 years plus ago now, or in that wildland interface, right? So anywhere where we meet the wood line and the forest, that's forestry. You're outside fires, right?
Okay.
And of course, just square mileage wise, right? We don't have the ability to have a big fire like Rumney has or whatever,
Right.
but we still have small little brush fires every single year, and it's a certain type of equipment that you use to put that out. It's different hose, it's different turnout gear, protective clothing. It's not super expensive, which is kind of seen in there. And then, but when whomever, the 6 call members that come in to fight that little fire, that gets paid out of the fire department budget. There used to be a small payroll line in here. It never made any sense, and so that was removed probably 12 years ago now. And
Walter, to your point, I understand what you're saying, but like the fire department also handles EMS. So to your point, we would need to break EMS out of that too. Because, so no matter what happens, when you call 911, whether it's for an ambulance, a building fire, or a brush fire, the same people respond to that call from that one department. So that's what I'm trying to say. So we don't have a forestry department. I'm trying to integrate that into where it should actually be. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does, but I still say the selectmen have, in their wisdom, have determined that we should have this as a separate thing, and for the sake of visibility, until the selectmen decide it's a mistake to keep it separate, I don't think it's in our sphere of professionalism to decide for them.
I like how you think there, Walter.
Pardon me?
yeah.
He agrees
kinda
with you,
don't agree
Walter.
with
I'm
that,
gonna
though.
say,
I like what
I'm
you're
gonna say
saying.
the same thing. I don't really know as much as Rob does. I don't know whether it makes sense to eliminate forestry. Specifically the forest. Thank you. I would be more comfortable if the chief would talk to the select board. If you guys make a decision to keep forestry or eliminate forestry, but that decision, I agree with Walter. I don't think that that's really a budget committee decision. So the first couple of ones that we voted on, the first ones were cost savings that the chief suggested, and then the truck made sense because the truck that we're using now goes away and the new truck is already in the fire department. And I guess I'm thinking we've already got gasoline for the new truck in the fire department, so we can get rid of gas in the forestry department. But I don't want to keep going up this list and try to zero out or single out all of these lines.
And after having this conversation, we probably should talk about the truck line at the select board level too.
All right.
So for some reason, I agree with you, Walter. For some reason, it doesn't seem right to do this. I can't even. Maybe it's just because it was the way it was. If I'm being that.
So
We're not
being that
voting
person.
on whether or not the department exists. We're
No,
voting
got it.
on how it's funded.
Yeah.
So
And there is a potential perception from people out there that you are playing a shell game. It's not true, but people can say, "Oh, you're hiding money. You're moving things around here. What are you doing to us?" That's just. And I know that's not what we're doing.
Well, especially if they start asking questions like I just asked. What exactly does the forestry department do?
Right.
Number one. Number two, the protective clothing. Isn't that protective clothing that you have? Is it any different than you would use to fight any fire or anything like that? Is there any difference in this
oh yeah,
protective clothing? So that's a key, because it definitely needs it. Okay, the maintenance and repairs. Maintenance and repairs of what?
the pumps, chainsaws, the
All the
small
stuff that you
engines,
only use.
Because there's like pump
Forestry.
packs, yep.
Yes, exactly. And then the new equipment that you get, or what have you, and not the new equipment, but the hose. That's something that is only,
Yeah, all different. Single
So it's
jacketed
all
versus
different.
double jacketed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So it's only used for the forestry
Right.
area.
So I just want to bring us back to the fact that we have a motion that's been seconded to amend line 635 for gas, which I thought was gasoline, but I think I've heard that it's more than that. It's not just gasoline for the truck, it's for other things. But we do, before we can go too much further, we do need to vote and either approve or reject that amendment. So
And did you say $1?
Dollar, yeah.
the proposal was to change it from 450 to 1. That's the
Right.
proposal we have on the table. So
Well,
do we want to, does anyone else, go ahead, you want to make a comment? Or
No.
anyone else have any
No.
comments they want to make, or we want to go ahead and vote on this?
Well, just to continue that, if we go down with the, like, as we just said, we're gonna talk to the select board. So essentially what we're saying, we are eliminating 2 forestry items and putting them in the fire department budget,
We'll go back in a second, yeah.
right?
Well, we'll have to reopen fire department.
That's not what I mean. I mean, if we say yes to this, now thinking what Walter just said, if we're gonna go to the select board and say, do you think it's a good idea to eliminate forestry and put it into the fire department? We have just made the decision to eliminate 2 lines of forestry and put it in the fire department. But you said we're gonna ask the select board if we can do that. Am I being too circular?
Well, I think gas was for the forestry truck. The forestry truck that would no longer exist. So
Not
this
just-
particular
I think
line.
Not just for the
Well,
forestry truck.
Yeah,
I get that.
but
I get all.
most of it.
Yeah.
So, do we not wanna make it $1, is my, yeah.
Walter wants to say
I
something.
would like to make a motion to leave forestry alone till we hear.
Well, we have to.
Okay, so what you're gonna do for that, Walter, is we need to vote on the motion that's on the table. So if you don't wanna make any more changes, then I expect, are gonna vote against it. But I'm not gonna take any more motions until we resolve this one.
Okay,
Okay? So, any other? Okay, I think we're ready to vote. So we're voting on the motion to amend line 635 of the forestry budget, which says gas, from the original amount of $450 to $1. All in favor, please aye and raise your hand.
Alright.
Against?
aye.
No.
Yeah, okay, and you're against, so that failed
I'm
to.
against.
That, so 2 for and 4 against.
Okay.
So that one did not pass, so we still have 450.
But can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So
We're back to general discussion.
when he wanted to put it down to 1, there's no more gas, but I thought you said it's not just the gas, like for a truck, it's other types of gas.
What I
moving out of
heard,
that
the chief say,
450.
gas is not just gasoline for a truck, it's
Yeah.
fuel for a number of things,
Right.
a truck and tools.
And so
Chainsaws,
let's say,
pumps.
let's say in 2019, if you follow the thing, we have spent upwards of almost $200. So would it make sense to make a motion to keep 200, but just take 250 out of that, as opposed to $1?
You can make
could
that
make that
motion.
motion.
I would like to make that motion.
Okay. So Sue is making a motion to again consider line 635, this time changing the amount from 450 to 200.
Yes.
I will second.
Charlie seconds. So we have another motion presented and seconded, which we can now discuss to change line 635 to $200.
So you're not moving gas money to the fire department budget, you're just reducing the
Just
forestry
reducing it.
gas budget?
Yeah.
Got it,
Right.
understood.
Since the forestry truck is going away,
Mhm.
we can take away gasoline for the forestry truck, is I think what Sue is
And we can track this line.
thinking.
Exactly.
So, any other additional comments or questions?
Well, is that what Sue's saying, or are you saying they haven't spent that much? So if we're reducing it because we're moving a truck, we
No,
still
but
need
there's
to,
no-
we still need to fuel that
You
truck.
still need to, there's no truck, but there's
So-
different types of fuel that they would need.
I understand.
And they have
Yeah.
over the years spent upwards over almost $200. So I would leave 200 if there is another type of fuel that they need to have the funds for.
So So you're doing the same thing.
I'm just taking it away.
You're doing
I
the
think
same
that's a
thing we're
money
just
that's a
doing, but it's
savings that they don't
it's-
really need.
It's $200 instead of 1, and you're gonna move money to the fire
No.
department.
No,
I'm
no, I'm not
bringing
moving
money
it.
to the fire
No.
department. I don't know what the committee
So
as
what
a
are
whole
you
is
gonna, how are
gonna
you
do.
gonna drive the truck?
The truck is driven under the
being
fire
eliminated.
department.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you, let's just say for the sake of argument, it's perfect, you're reducing the amount of gas you're gonna put in that truck, how are you gonna drive it?
Question for the chief.
I have an answer, but I'll let Rob, go ahead, Rob.
Chief, would you agree that what that vehicle is used for, that it's far more fuel efficient than other vehicles that have been used for the same purpose in the past are, and that's probably just gonna offset?
Yeah, I think the truck maintenance money that we just moved, the 661 money, that $1,000 really needs to get moved to the fire department line in the spirit of that motion. The couple extra bucks or whatever it is going to be we don't need to touch gas or diesel or whatever it is, gas diesel line in the fire department budget, because exactly what Rob said. We're not going to run the rescue out as a kind of utility vehicle that burns at 12 miles to the gallon of diesel fuel. It'll be 20 miles to the gallon of gasoline. So
Yeah.
I just,
Ten for it.
okay, I guess.
That's good.
Okay,
Okay.
so I was gonna try to answer the question, but I don't,
I'm
you're telling me,
fine.
you're fine,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So, any other? All right, let's move the question. So we're going to vote on amending the line 635 of the forestry budget, which is gas, to $200.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I heard
5 of them.
5.
Right.
Against?
Opposed.
Okay, so that passes 5-1. So we're at 200. Okay. I would like, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion just to table the forestry and at least until the select board hears the result of this.
I hear you, Walter, so let me say what I was gonna say. I would
Okay.
like to move the bottom line on forestry, but I'm going to ask the other members of the committee if anyone else has another motion to amend they would like brought up before I do that. Not hearing anything.
I make a motion, we reduce 423430 maintenance and repairs to $1.
Which one is it? I'm sorry, 430?
Okay, we have a motion from Rob to amend line 430 of the forestry department for maintenance and repairs from the current proposal of $250 to $1. Do we have a second?
Well, second, yeah.
We do have a second. Sue seconds it. Do we have any?
So nothing's been extended out of that line over the past 5 years.
Yeah, I see 4 years on this spreadsheet
4
that I
years,
have. And I'm-
Do you see that as purely budgetary
yeah, I mean it's partly budgetary.
and not actually what's occurring?
I mean, I think it's probably not over the last couple of years. I don't know. It's an awful nice fund to have because of the cost of those repairs when it does happen. But
So this is one of your specialty pumps or chainsaws or something that the forestry
yeah, that's where you
department
charge
uses.
it specifically for that stuff, whether it's the floating pump or whatever. I don't really know how it's been zero over the last number of years, and
Okay.
quite honestly, my suspicion is it's based on the new software, and the new software doesn't. When I get my reports every month, Bob's still usually pretty good about being able to, for this purpose, break it out, but there's no 4230 code or something in the software, and so I've got overages that look like overages, but they're not, with internally. So I don't really believe that that's accurate, that nothing's been expended, only because I know of a number of repairs over the last couple of years, so
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask
that have
you.
been
So-
coded that way. But again, it's
So potentially the same thing on 610 then?
which one's 610?
Make materials and supplies?
Yeah, so 610, the big reason that's not been used is because like it'll get, like you can see where the grant, like this year in particular, the entirety of the expenditure for the grant stuff, which is generally material supplies or PPE or hose or equipment, just got charged to that one line. You know what I mean?
You have to-
No, I was just gonna ask you too, cause.
You seconded it, so you have to
Oh, I
agree
did?
to its withdrawal.
Oh, yeah, I agree, yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so we have an agreement.
So you must have to keep a record as to like how many, like when was the last hose bought and when was this,
Yeah.
you must have that.
Yep.
Maybe that's something you could check on to find out, so that, because this could be justifying why you would need that. If it's old, it's gonna be going sooner, it's right, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah, I think, again, I think those two lines in particular get blended into other lines.
Yeah.
And then they don't get fixed, which is
Okay.
kind of fine, kind of not, but
Okay.
certainly if we're trying to be a little bit more focused on that this year, then that money being there is gonna be.
So unless someone has another motion they would like to make, keep my ears open, but in the meantime, I'm gonna move the bottom line of forestry, because I think we're.
Would it be 1,203? Is that where we're at?
That's what I've got.
Yep.
So we're gonna consider the budget for the forestry department, which is section 4230, in the amended amount of $1,203. So I got 500 plus 250 plus 250 is 1,000, plus
Yeah, I
gas
can-
is 200,
Yes.
plus 3 ones.
Yep. I got the same
Never
number.
mind,
Yep.
I just got one question.
Go ahead.
I made a motion that we table it.
So you wanna make a motion not to have this vote, you wanna make a
Yes.
motion to table? I'm sorry, I missed that, Walter, and I
Okay,
hear you.
I-
Does somebody want to not consider forestry and second Walter's motion?
So,
At least for a period till the selectmen
Point-
have
I'll
another
second it,
chance to
Ken.
look at
Point
this.
of
Yes,
order,
yes,
point of order.
Go ahead.
Did you already make a motion to move the?
No.
I did, but it wasn't seconded, well, I did
doesn't have to be
originally,
seconded.
and I said I was gonna call, but
I think it was a mistake on
it
your
was a
part, though.
mistake. Walter did say
Okay,
yeah.
I thought he was saying, let's stop talking and vote on the bottom line, and he pointed out to me that I misheard him.
Yeah.
He didn't say stop talking and vote on the line, he said table the whole discussion and come back to it later after the select board and the chief have talked and can give us some more information, is what I think I heard
That's
Walter
what
say.
Yeah.
I meant to say if it didn't come
So I
out.
think we do have to accept Walter's motion, which
Yeah.
is seconded by Carol, and
Yes,
now we can discuss.
but I think Rob's right.
I was
Okay,
just
what-
making
let's-
sure that
let's-
that's done correct procedurally, I wasn't trying to cut Walt.
No, but let's, yes.
So I want to give, I think the reason that I did that is because I didn't recognize that Walter had made a motion. So I feel I made a mistake and we need to go back and recognize Walter's motion.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
not supporting it, but I do want to vote on it.
So what would happen in this case, so to be clear, is we would have to come back to this section at one point. It would just push off our final vote on this section. If we table it.
So Walter, we're in discussion now. I think what I'm gonna want to do is I'm gonna want to vote against your motion. I'm gonna want to approve the forestry budget. And then if at a later date, Carol or the chief or someone from the select board came back with more information, we could reopen the discussion on the forestry budget and do other things. But I would rather vote on it and close it out and get it done. I don't think we're gonna make any big changes in the future, so I don't see any reason not to vote on it now. I'm just telling you for discussion purposes what my opinion is.
I voted for the selectmen that we have in the belief that they were the best people to represent me that were offered. They were the best candidate, and until a selectman tells me, Walter, it was better for the town if we include this in the fire department so we don't have to see it separate, I think let the select board hear our discussion tonight. It only take us 5 minutes to vote on this after we hear their reply. And I like the people I voted for selectmen, and I trust them. I don't think anyone can lead us better from the, certainly I can't lead this better. And I don't think there's anyone I trust any more than the selectmen that I voted for to make a recommendation. So I've made a motion, I hope someone will second it.
It's been seconded, we're gonna vote on it.
Okay,
What I wanna check is just to see if there's any discussion from this side of the room.
Nope.
So we're now gonna, and do you have a discussion or comment?
I just want to say, I appreciate what you're saying, Walter. And the only reason I'm not going to support your motion to table it, the chief has told us that we can eliminate those two lines for $500 apiece. And then he's also told us that he's okay with us moving the money for the, let me finish,
Truck.
for the truck into the fire department line, because that truck doesn't, it's not going to exist anymore. We're not voting on eliminating the forestry department. Like you said, that's a select board issue that the select board would actually have to take up. There's still funding in there, so technically it still exists as it always has. It's just going to exist without a truck, which is the chief's decision, not ours. And we're leaving money, we're leaving $1 in those lines, so we're not eliminating anything.
It's gonna be tough for the guys to run all the way to Ashland.
It is, but,
That's good exercise.
so it's just, it's essentially a change that things are, in the way things are done operationally in the department, and not as, you know, it's not trying to aggressively eliminate something and say, let's get rid of this. It's just, and I apologize, my understanding is a little different because I'm more intimately involved in it.
Done.
Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone
Comment
wants-
you wanna make
Chief,
before I call it?
I missed part of the discussion. Did you recommend eliminating that truck?
The truck moving into the fire department budget makes perfect sense because of how we replaced that truck. And the forestry, the previous forestry vehicle is in all likelihood going to be disposed of within the next month or 3 months or whatever it is.
So Walter.
So that's gonna make us go back and do the fire department all
Yes.
over again.
I hope so.
I think you've made that clear, yes.
But
It's just two motions.
we can do that in 5 minutes.
We'll do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Carol, go ahead.
I'm with Walter, and I'm, to address what you said before, maybe we should break the EMS budget out of the fire department budget and let people see every number. I know Chief's like.
I think you just started.
I do not enjoy
Well,
doing
no,
spreadsheets.
I mean, to address that, what you said, well, let's put it all together, it'll be easier. But the people, you're talking about raising the tax rate, everybody doesn't wanna see that. The more stuff they can see specifically, because people read this, they read these lines, the more stuff they see specifically, the more transparent
Well, if you
you
want to,
and we are about how the money's being spent.
if you
And
want to
when you
go
start-
down that
If you
road,
start, you can go the whole, you can take it a lot
rescue,
farther.
hazmat, fire alarm,
But,
you can
so,
have 7 different
Okay,
departments.
guys,
on
guys,
this.
but-
guys, I'm gonna ask you to go to the next select board
Yeah.
meeting and talk about this.
Yeah.
well,
Very good point, Mr. Chair.
Chair, if you let me just finish.
Yes, go ahead.
One more second.
Go ahead.
I have a note here to make sure we discuss this at the next meeting, and I'll send a note to Sean, so that we, or Christina.
Before
can
we
add
do
it to
that
the
though,
agenda.
the chief needs to verify that we can still get grant funds if that's eliminated. So I don't
Right.
suggest we do that at this next select board
Yeah.
meeting. I think the chief needs to make sure that it's not gonna hurt us if we get rid of completely this 4230 and put it all into the fire department budget. I just wanna make sure it doesn't
But
say you can't get money.
I don't disagree with you, but I would point out that nothing we've done here tonight in this committee has
No.
eliminated the forestry
No.
department.
Correct,
Right, other than
but
taking the truck
I'm just
away from
like,
it.
Carol, no, we're not ready to have that conversation at the select board level
Okay.
yet.
But we're ready to start that discussion
We
at the
are,
budget
yes.
committee.
I think
We are.
Yes.
Can we,
are
can
totally-
we vote on the, can we
Yes.
vote on the motion?
So we're gonna vote on Walter's motion, which is to table discussion of the forestry department budget. So if you vote for, we will move on without taking any more votes on forestry and have to come back to it at a later meeting. If you vote against it, then we will vote on the doesn't mean we can't vote on it again later, but we will then have a vote on the bottom line forestry budget. Does that make it clear to everybody? So, I'm gonna call the question on Walter's motion, which is to table the forestry department budget discussion for the rest of the evening. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye, please.
Aye.
I got 2. Opposed? I got 4. The motion fails. So, since that motion did not pass, and there are no more motions to amend the forestry department, we are gonna vote on the bottom line forestry budget, which is section 4230, in the amended amount of $1,203. All in favor?
Aye.
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 4 yes. Against? 1 abstain?
Yeah,
I'm not
Well,
clear which one you voted.
I'm trying to remember how I voted on all these things, so.
Okay, I'll give you a section, but I do need to put you in one of those 3 categories.
I'll abstain for now.
I was gonna say, you
Let's just-
voted all, but you were against the $200.
Say again?
You voted for everything except for the $200, the reduction on the gas to 200.
Okay, well, I'm gonna abstain then.
Okay, so that passes by a vote of 4 people, 4 votes in favor, 1 vote against, and 1 abstention. We are done with forestry. Do we want to go on and pop out management, or do we want to go back and
Wait,
reopen
I
fire?
make a motion to reopen.
Wait,
hold on.
because I thought we have to move that $999 from the truck up.
That's
what
what I
it's
was
doing
just
right now.
asking.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I think Rob wants to do that first, right,
Yeah.
Rob?
Yes.
Okay.
You need a motion to reconsider it, or?
I just want to check. There's no problem with going back and reopening.
We just
fire
need
at this
No,
point.
you can-
Reopen the bottom line.
So I'll go ahead. I'm gonna make a motion that we're gonna reconsider the fire department budget. I think we need to vote on that real quick first. Can I get a second?
Aye,
Second,
second.
I got Sue first. So all in favor of reopening the discussion on the fire department budget?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Walter?
Opposed.
Okay. You were yes, right?
Yep.
So I got 5 votes for, 1 against, and 1 abstention. So we're gonna reconsider the fire.
Well, that doesn't make sense. You just counted 7 votes.
Non-abstention.
I said 5 for, 1 against, and 0 abstentions.
You said 1 abstention.
Okay.
It is 0 abstention.
It's 0.
0 abstentions. You said 1.
What I'm thinking and what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I wrote down was 510.
Alright, I'll make an amendment to line
Make a motion.
42. I'll make a motion to amend 4220, 667, FD vehicle maintenance to an amount of $1,500.
Yes.
Can I get a second?
I second. I second.
Okay, Sue, you seconded it.
Yeah.
I heard you first. All right, so we have a motion to amend line 667 of the fire department budget, section 4220, which is vehicle maintenance, from the previously agreed amount of 500 to a new proposed amount of 1,500.
And this would be for the vehicle that is now being used for what the
Yes. I
forestry
think-
truck was being used
Yes.
for.
All right,
I think-
but I might be confused because isn't it $14.99 because you kept $1?
Technically, that's.
Technically,
Oh,
or do
yeah.
you
That's
not
what
just?
we said.
We're giving him an extra $1
All right,
just to keep
I'm
it in
I'm just
numbers.
telling you,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't want to hammer
Yeah.
it in.
That is what we said we were
Buy an air
gonna
freshener.
Do you want to move 999 instead of
Can't buy
$1,000?
an air freshener.
do. To her point, it is what we said we were gonna do.
Yeah.
I understand the motion
Yeah.
was for $1,500. I wasn't gonna
Yep.
quibble over $1.
I keep my motion with $100.
Okay. So we've discussed this quite a bit already. Is there anyone that would like to make a further discussion before I call the question? Hearing no further discussion, we will now vote on the motion, which is to amend line 667 of the fire department, which is section 4220, for vehicle maintenance to a new amount of $1,500. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
I didn't see a hand.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes.
obviously, yes, so that passed 6 yes votes with no other votes. So now we need to reconsider
The new
the
bottom line.
new bottom line budget for the fire department. which is gonna be, let's see, another 1,500.
No, another 1,000.
Another 1,000.
Another
1,
255.
1,255, 259.
Yeah, that's the number I got too. So we're going to vote on the new bottom line amended fire department budget, which is section 4220, and the new amended amount of $1,255,259.
So moved.
Yeah, I guess I needed a motion, thank you. And I'll second that. Any discussion? Thank you for keeping me on track.
No problem.
I'm just gonna go right to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 We have, that is approved. So. We are done with the fire department.
I'll make a motion to open 4290 emergency management at an amount of $1,002.
Second.
And Rob will second. We now have a motion and a second. We have discussion. Is there anything here, Chief, that you want to discuss? It's pretty straightforward, right?
No.
Does anyone want to make a motion to amend any of the lines, any one of the 3 lines in the emergency management section of the budget?
The trailer maintenance line, nothing, you don't ever have to do anything with that? We spent 105 on it in 2021.
Yeah, it's literally just there, you know, if we can get a grant to do some work to it or have an actual expensive tire or something.
That's the trailer that sits outside the fire department next to the gas station.
No, it's the trailer that's at High Street Station.
Oh.
So that's the CERT trailer. It's state volunteer corps owned. and
Okay.
We house it there under an MOU to be nice so that it's centrally located.
Okay.
in the public health network.
Okay. So this particular trailer we essentially never see.
Yes.
Okay.
It's best that you never see.
Got
It hasn't moved since 2000.
Okay.
it.
Well, that's what I'm kind of wondering, does it need bearing work, or, I just say this because I had a bunch of trailers, emergency trailers to take care of.
Yeah, no,
For the state, and they
looked
sit
at
there, and
and
they sit there, and they
Yeah.
sit there, and you go to tow it, and you're like,
you know.
can't tow it. So that's a different discussion, I guess, so I apologize.
No, that's fine.
I'm
Okay.
asking if you need more money in it, so I guess we don't want to have that conversation.
I heard your question and I heard the chief's response and I didn't think I heard a motion to amend. So I'm going to say that I'm not hearing any motions to amend. So speak up if I got it wrong, but otherwise I'm going to move the bottom line, which is, so we're going to vote on the bottom line budget for the emergency management department, which is $42.90 in the amount of $1,002. All in favor? Say
Aye.
That's 6 yes votes, and let me ask the other question. That passes.
I apologize, Chief, I didn't do that the way maybe it came across.
No, no, it's fine.
All right. I'm trying to open up my agenda here to
Do
see.
we have historic district commission? I'm just
So-
trying to find where it is.
Hold on a second. So I just wanted to confirm that we are done with,
Public safety.
you can be excused. I know you're disappointed that you can't stay longer, but
Don't we have to vote on the total for the public safety?
I don't believe so. No, that's just a subline in
No,
the
subline.
spreadsheet.
Okay.
So thank you for your time. We appreciate your coming and answering our questions.
Is that it? Yeah.
I don't. Pass
Thank
it
you very
again
much.
and again.
Have your-
No, that's highway department.
Oh, that's how we.
So Charlie,
Midnight.
Yeah.
the issue is that I've been informed that there is still work going on
In historic
in
district.
historic district, and I was asked to take it off the agenda.
But it
And
hasn't been.
what I said yesterday was, I don't like making changes to the agenda within 24 hours. I think that's a little reaction. But what I did
Should we
say is
table
that
it?
I'm gonna make a motion to table discussion of historic district, because there's more information being developed, and we should wait for that
I
to come to
will,
us.
I will second the
What
motion.
page was that on?
I just wanted to based on the discussion from the last meeting, I haven't been able to follow up on some of the concerns, and I wanted to do that before you actually,
Yeah.
see if we can change the
So we don't have to
budget.
come back. Yeah.
Right, so,
It's basically just on the
It's,
agenda, but Sue.
46,
It's on page 20.
12.
Okay.
4612 is the budget
But there's been a motion to table it and a
Right.
second to that motion.
Yep.
We'll come back to it later.
Right, and we talked about it last week, we had questions and we didn't have answers, so we tabled the discussion, waiting for more information, and that more information is not yet available, so we.
I
will-
should have it for your next meeting though, so.
All right,
So,
so I'll
put it on the next agenda.
I'll put it on the next agenda in the expectation. And I just, one thing, so actually, hold on, we have a motion to table the discussion historic district, which has been seconded. I don't think there's any discussion, but we need to vote on that, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
That passes 6-0. Just to let you know, once the agenda gets finalized enough that Shannon sends it out to all the members and it gets posted on the website, unless it's something absolutely critical, I don't like changing the agenda at that point. So if somebody comes to me a week before and says, can you change the agenda, that's easy. If someone comes to me 12 hours before the meeting and says, change the agenda, basically what I say is, no, we'll just handle it in the meeting. We're not gonna make last second agenda changes. So that's kind of where we are, and just so you know my philosophy, when the meeting's over, if you disagree, come and argue with me. Okay.
That's a good idea, yeah.
All right, so, it is 8:30, and so we still have a few things. I think we have enough time
CIP.
to knock off the CIP today, which is on our agenda.
Oh, good grief. No, I'm kidding.
What?
I said, oh, good grief.
So it was on last week's agenda, and we ran out of time.
Can we focus on how this document has changed from the last time we've seen it?
What we need, so one of the things that's not clear to me, and I'm kind of talking out loud, looking for, so there's not a line in the budget. So this is
No.
not something that we have to discuss and approve.
Correct.
I think it's just being shared with us for our information, because it's a lot of the justification for what the select board is gonna do with capital warrant articles.
Yeah.
Am I correct when I say that?
I'm gonna take that just a
Please,
step
go ahead,
back.
fix it.
So, the CIP committee is a subcommittee of the planning board. They try to develop a plan. It's not anything that's budgeted. They try to develop a plan that is approved by the planning board to try to keep, their recommendations are trying to keep the budget stable. And so there's not these huge increases in the tax rate they're trying to they're trying to fund it with capital reserve funds, things like that. So they present it to the select board, who takes it into consideration when they're looking at the warrant articles and the budget amounts. And then it is also presented to this board, our committee, so that you can take it into consideration in your review or your thoughts about how you consider the budget too. So unfortunately, Don Milburn was supposed to be here tonight, but he was at the hospital when I called him on the phone. So he's okay, but he's not coming tonight, obviously. I can touch base. I think the narrative is going to give you a lot of what they've changed, and I can just briefly touch base on some of those things. In the police department, the capital reserve fund was increased on the report. If I could just make mine bigger.
Just to meet increased vehicle cost over time, right?
Yeah, so they increased the vehicle cost because, and to return the capital reserve fund to 54,000 because the vehicle costs are going up. Let me go back to, I lost my spot. There wasn't a lot of changes on the public works. Let me just look down through.
Sorry, can you just go over what you two just said?
So let me go back. Let me start with the worksheet. So the worksheet is a plan that they develop that's supposed to roughly be 10 years, and so they look at and they try to plan out long range for the projects. Some people on the committee call it the wish list of the department heads, but this is to maintain and keep vehicle replacements consistent. So there's a section for police department, there's a section for public works, which is the highway department, and there's a section for the fire department. There's no section you'll notice for water sewer, but they do mention water sewer in their narrative because they do want people to understand that water sewer is an enterprise fund. Their funds are not part of the capital improvement plans, but they'd like people to know that they do support some of the things that they're doing. So let me go back. So so going back to the police department, the only major change was the updating the capital reserve amounts. Public Works Department, they're recommending under Highway Department capital reserve, adding 120,000 to the existing balance in the capital reserve fund, which will.
So you're looking at the 2023 line is where you come
Yep.
up with those numbers.
Yes.
Where did you come up with 54,000, Charlie? Or did I not
It's
hear
in
you
the, no,
right?
it's in the narrative as 54, so let me go back and check the worksheet.
For police?
Yeah,
So police is going from 52,000 to 54,000, then to 56,000 for vehicle replacement over the next 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
So essentially you see that increase just in vehicle costs.
Yeah, but
That's
it
probably
doesn't-
conservative,
I'd
right?
say so.
Very conservative.
Yeah, you get it.
but what's very confusing, let me just look, so if you look at the reserve fund, I think they've made an error. So according to the narrative, and I didn't catch this before, if you look at the narrative, the police cruiser capital reserve fund says that they are recommending to restore the balance to 54. But they have 52 in the 2023 line.
Yeah, and 2024.
Yep. Yeah, so I will have to clarify that.
Yeah.
At this point, they're not gonna be able to change it because they'd have to go back to the planning board, so the 52,000 will stay. I may just ask them to update their narrative to say 52 instead. But so their recommendation, whether it's an error or not, is for the reserve fund to be funded with 52,000 for 2023. And I can't change that now. They'll have to relook at this next year and determine if that number is correct or not.
And your key word there was a recommendation.
Correct.
It's a recommendation to the select
It's to
board.
the select board whether to put that in a warrant article or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If we take a look at the improvements we've made in this town by the vote of the people, and if we take a look at the cost that people are now under, this is one place I think a cut can be made. We've improved every department of this town at considerable expense. Highway department, police department, fire department, we've improved them all. Maybe this is someplace they can show a little appreciation for what the people have already agreed to. And cut back. We're all being conservative at home.
Yeah.
So I hear you, Walter. I want to point out again, so this is not a budget item. So we're not being asked to review and approve it. We will get an opportunity late in the process when the select board finalizes the warrant for the meeting, that all of the warrant articles that cause money to be spent, we will be asked to vote on whether we recommend that the voters approve them or decline them. So that's going to be our opportunity in February to vote on, did I get it wrong? I thought
In
that
March.
was March,
Well,
okay.
February you can vote on the warrant articles, but yes.
I thought it was, when we do the public meeting,
Yes.
so.
I just wanted to clarify too for you, Walter, it's a plan only, but they have to present that plan to you.
Go ahead.
And if we don't tell people what we're thinking now, they're gonna assume we're approving all this. I think the time to tell the select board that we think it's a time to economize someplace. I think this is a good place for us to economize, or to make the suggestion to the select board that we think we've been generous enough. And here's something, you've gotta listen to us. I don't know about other people, but my income isn't going up, but all my bills are.
I hear.
Have a little sympathy on the number of seniors in this town that have paid and paid and paid and been supportive, 100% supportive of every single department. But now let's take into consideration what we've already agreed to and be a little sympathetic for the people that are on a fixed income.
Thank you, Walter.
Well said.
I appreciate that, and
The select board members writing.
I was gonna say,
Feverishly.
we've got a select board member who comes to
Yeah.
all of our meetings. So, and if you wanna find Sean or one of the others, feel free to have a conversation. We don't have the authority to
But we
make
have
that
a
decision,
responsibility.
but we can argue for that point of view, we can argue for that point of view, yes. Go ahead.
It is
I will,
two things I just want to add. The role of the CIP is not, they're trying to look at what needs to happen, how long vehicles will last and how to fund that over the years. Their role is to give you the best plan to try and keep the tax rate from going up and down. The role of the select board is to decide what warrant articles that they're gonna put on, which you then can vote on when you get those warrant articles.
Yep.
So that's where you can send your clear message, Walter.
I wanna send a message now,
Two.
what I'm going to do at town meeting.
Right.
I will bring that forward, and if you wanna come to the next select board meeting to voice that, you certainly can, but I'll bring it forward. I appreciate that, Walter, very much.
I forgot to put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
They're supposed to have a preliminary view of your warrant articles at your next meeting, but I forgot to put it on the agenda.
Already?
I'll do it on, well, we had to start the talk with the select board, not you, them.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah,
like,
the select
geez.
board agenda, not our agenda.
I'll just put it on the town.
Oh, wait, I'm
to
up
you
to this for a long
for it.
time.
But you're right, I think, here we go off on a generic conversation again. Everybody's keeping their car a year longer, their truck a year longer than maybe they would have. Because of
Oh, I think it makes
personal
sense.
costs, so.
Part of the issue that I have, Walter, is that what I've seen in the past is, so I lose track exactly, but a couple of years ago, the select board decided times were tough and that maybe it was the year we approved the sewer, so the sewer was a big nut. So they cut back on capital contributions to other accounts. But then they come to us the next year and say, well, we really need 125 every year in order to do everything we want to do, and we only asked you for 50 last year. So this year we need to ask you for 200 in order so that the average stays the same because we fell behind. So unless you negotiate with the town itself and get the road department to agree that they're going to do without a piece of equipment or they're going to delay the purchase, so that something like that. That's the real, and that's clearly select board's responsibility and not anything that we have any authority or I mean, as taxpayers, we can have an opinion, and as committee members, we're involved in the town, we can have an opinion, but we don't get to make that decision other than our vote at town meeting.
You can vote on the warrant articles to send a message that you don't support that money being put away.
Correct.
So if the select board chose to put $125,000 into the highway fund because to fund it for a vehicle, you can make a decision to not support that article.
Correct.
Or amend it, yeah.
Sorry. Sure.
Or amend it, right?
Or you no, you
we
can't
can't
amend the warrant
amend it. The
articles.
select board controls.
You can only vote whether you support the warrant article or not.
I have no
Has to be amended on
doubt
the
this,
Yeah, amend it on the floor. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah,
thought you
by
were here at
anyone.
this meeting.
Yeah, no.
I have no doubt the select board would rather hear our opinion now
Yeah.
than at town meeting.
Yeah.
Makes sense, Walter, okay.
So, I mean, I can touch base on some of the other stuff, but again, this is a plan. The priorities that are listed on the plan are based on, if you look at the bottom of the worksheet, the priorities are based on whether it's urgent, necessary, desirable, something that could be deferred.
Yeah, that 1 to 7 scale.
Right, so when they do the plan, they develop, all the vehicles should be on here. Vehicles, equipment, buildings, those kinds of things should all be on here, capital reserves.
Yeah.
With what the priority is, so there's a lot of number 7s in here, you'll notice on the worksheet, which means they are scheduled replacements. And then the next few columns tell you the current model year, so that's what the current vehicle is, the life expectancy of that vehicle, and then the expected replacement year, so when they anticipate they have to replace it and how they're gonna replace it. So they're gonna replace it out of a capital reserve fund, and then how much they estimate the replacement cost will be. So when they develop the plan, they do just try to keep it stable as much as possible. But again, this is strictly advisory. What this is doesn't mean this is what's being funded. It's just advisory.
And
That's
kind
their
of-
role.
Kind of the whole idea of this is so that if you don't do this and you say, geez, all of a sudden we got a broken down backhoe, could we have $75,000, $80,000 for a backhoe? And then people say, well, why didn't you think of that?
Correct,
already?
right.
That's what this is
Well,
about.
why don't you plan
And
ahead?
good luck
Right.
buying a backhoe for $80,000 right now.
Well, that's why I said, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's the
but-
scary thing, is you look at some of this stuff,
So
and
yeah.
these are very conservative.
Oh, you think?
estimates.
I mean,
A
the
grader for 2 floors.
ladder
Yeah,
truck. Good
great.
luck buying a ladder truck for
Yeah,
$660,000.
the next ladder truck's coming in.
So-
I mean, they recognize that too, and so those numbers haven't been adjusted. So the CIP meets with every department, not every department head, but the department heads that are on the spreadsheet. They sit down and look at this, they adjust replacement costs, which they did do in the highway department. There was, on the 6-wheel dump trucks, they adjusted them so they were gradually increasing. But to actually put a $1 million value on a ladder truck in here, you're not ever gonna be able to fund it for that. So the fire chief has talked to CIP about, we're probably gonna have to get creative, and we're gonna have to probably extend the life of a ladder truck more than what this says.
Well,
So-
that's the reality, that's a
That
30-year
is-
truck.
right.
It should be a 30-year truck and not
Right.
25.
Right, so it's listed as 25, but he did say, we're gonna have to do something different. We're gonna have to keep looking, especially if the costs don't start changing.
Yeah.
So this is a plan, but it can't take everything that we're talking about, unfortunately, into consideration when they develop a plan. They can't put it all down on paper, so they know they've talked about this and they know they're gonna watch it, and Paul will be on the committee too.
I actually have joined this committee. I'm on the CIP committee
We have
now.
2 new members that Joyce joined.
Myself and another
so-
guy just joined the committee,
Yeah.
and so they basically work through the summer and early fall to get this done in like a 3-month period ending in September.
Can I ask about the sidewalk plow?
Yeah?
Why in particular is that a leased item and not a purchased item?
So-
Seems like we own a lot of our other items, but for some reason that is the item that gets leased.
So that was leased, that was a decision made about 4 years ago by the select board. It was a 5-year lease. The last lease payment is being paid in November 2023. So that, and the part of why they leased it at the time was we had equipment. We had pieces of equipment that would fit that, is my understanding. And so they're regretting they went with that piece of equipment because there's a problem with it. There's been problems since, and they're not gonna, they can actually, there's a buyout, you could buy it and keep it, they're not. So last lease payment is November 2023 and
We
the-
own the mower, the sweeper,
Yeah.
all that stuff
Yeah.
over it.
so they went with the, and it was actually, if I wasn't quite involved about 4 years ago, but I believe there were board members that felt that the lease option was a better option at the time, instead of
Because
buying
they
and owning it.
repair it and do things like that.
Right.
But yeah.
Right.
Well, 'cause we own the.
We own the attachments, it was, so that's what, so the last payment on that is next year, November 2023. You won't see any, if I don't believe after that last payment.
But the CIP is essentially, the way they've placed the amount in is almost
No, so
recommending
they,
another lease of a different type of piece of equipment.
Dennis,
Right.
well, no,
Different
Mark's
brand.
not sure.
So Charlie, I can tell you, one of the things that I heard at the meeting I went to is they leased the current piece of equipment because the accessories that go with it, we already own. So we
Right.
wanted to lease. The accessories are now old enough that they're wearing out. So they're basically gonna say, we're not gonna be constrained anymore. They're gonna try to pick the solution that's best, but if you gotta buy new, so I don't know what the answer is.
So the
gonna be,
solution
but-
is, the decision has not been
the
made.
decision has not
Correct.
been made, but they're not gonna limit themselves to just buying or leasing from one manufacturer now. They're saying,
Christina,
Go ahead.
Sorry.
That's okay, go ahead.
Quick question, so the fire department radio lease purchase shows up here, and also shows up in the operating budget.
Right, so this is the CIP plan.
Okay.
This is not, these numbers you won't see in all of your operating budget. This is their plan, which has to incorporate all equipment. So it is, and anything over $10,000 usually is listed on this plan.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering, because so the sidewalk tractor lease payment is not coming out of the highway department's operating budget.
I think if you look at that, it's under capital equipment.
Okay.
Let me just go look. Yeah, it is. It's under capital, principal debt, because we have a lease that we've signed, so. Look.
And there's still discussion about possibly down the road maybe purchasing a hauling truck if we can.
They've added a hauling truck, which is, what are they calling it? The thoughts behind that is it's a sledge trash hauling truck. It's currently both sewer sludge and trash are hauled for disposal by an outside contractor. Ongoing expenses can be reduced by the town hauling its own sludge and trash with the purchase of the necessary equipment. The equipment expense would be shared 50-50 by the water and sewer department reserve funds and the highway department equipment capital reserve fund.
And it will give them more flexibility in moving the full solid waste containers when they want.
But that, I don't see that as a line on this.
On the capital report,
What line is it? Since I don't see anything as a priority 3, so.
I think that this report is the wrong report. I'm wondering if land use,
October 26, 2021, and upper left-hand corner.
Yes,
That's wrong.
Is it wrong here?
I got the wrong report there. That's why
Yeah,
those
so-
numbers aren't matching.
There's like, I was just like, this doesn't look right.
I
I
really,
think we didn't approve this.
it's a good thing you don't have to. How about we table this and I'll present you the right report at your next meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was sent to us, so we probably all have it in our
Well, let me-
computers at home, but let's table this discussion, we don't
Yeah.
have the right piece of paper.
Yeah, because it's the wrong one completely that was sent to you.
Oh, was it?
Yep. How about I send you the right one tomorrow and I send you a couple other things that I was supposed to send you tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to table
Thank you.
our discussion.
Sorry, see,
CFP.
Dawn should have been here.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
yep. So
Sorry.
We will move on from,
Good conversation.
Hey, I know, we've got good opinions.
that made more sense. Okay, so we're done with CIP. So we just have a couple of normal agenda items and then we're done. So the next thing is review and approval of minutes from our most recent meeting, which was this says November 16th on the agenda, but it was actually the 15th.
Oh.
The 16th is a Wednesday, our meeting was on the 15th.
Yeah.
I noticed that because the file actually has the 16th
So-
in it and
The minutes themselves say the 16th, so you'll have to fix them, put those
So,
in your amendment.
I make a motion to amend the minutes to show that the meeting was held on November 15th.
I second, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's an easy one, that's
Yeah,
factual.
yeah.
Yeah.
Other than that, I didn't see anything, but I have the
I did
advantage
see-
of seeing the
I went
first
through the whole
draft of the
thing,
minutes and I've
yeah.
already made some comments. Did anyone else have any?
No.
I felt like they were written with appropriate detail. I was able to like follow along and understand
you
what
were
happened
here.
at the meeting.
Good, good.
So they were effective for my use. That's what I want to say as a
Okay.
comment.
Thank you for the comment.
Yep.
So I don't hear any other comments or suggestions for change, so I'm gonna go ahead and move the motion to approve the minutes
Amended.
as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes 6 to
I'm
0.
not abstaining.
Oh, you abstained, I'm sorry. 5-0-1. Do you want
I
to
should
amend
be
also?
abstention, I'm sorry.
You don't have to, but you can if you want to. Okay, we will go back and change the vote to 4-0-2.
That's what I meant.
We're pretty informal here. We aim to please. I'm not super, if if we somehow don't dot the I on every Robert rule, it's not the end of the world, as long as we're effective and get stuff done. Correspondence. I'm trying to think.
I contacted you.
So I got a note from Charlie. He said that he had a comment on the Kelly Park budget, which we approved last meeting, that he wasn't here for, that he would like to reopen that and make a comment. I'll put that on a future meeting. I don't think it's going to take a lot of time. I got a note from Walter. He copied me on the note that he sent to the Visiting Nurse Association after the conversation we had with them, where he said he had some concerns and they invited him to respond with the specific comments. And if you want, I would think Walter would be willing to share if you're interested, if you want to see a copy.
I did send him a letter, I did tell him what my concerns were. I also told him that I thought they did an excellent job of representing Lakes Region.
Have they responded to your letter yet?
No, they haven't.
Okay.
And just for information, I like competition. And I'm going to try to delay any vote on Lakes Region Visiting Nurses Association until after we have a vote on PEMI.
Okay.
And so,
Did we get them moved into the same section?
We did.
Yes, we did.
So they will be in the same section.
We did move them.
I missed
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Good.
We'll do those at the same time.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I would like to see. I'm interested in the response too.
Pardon me?
I'm interested in the response to you
Yeah.
because when I read the minutes, I had similar ideas to what you were alluded to.
Yeah.
That I would have brought up myself if I was there.
I only brought one copy of that, and I'm going to give it to Carol. I'll make more copies of it, but here's the letter that I sent. I'm sorry I didn't bring a copy for everybody. But
Are you interested? Electronically, I can send it.
I'm interested in the response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing, Walter, when they respond to you, if you would forward that on, and
Yeah.
we'll make sure that the rest of the committee gets that information, that would be helpful. So the
Thank
the third piece of correspondence, I also got the correspondence from Christina asking for us to hold off on historic district. The other correspondence I got a note. Today is Tuesday. I got a note Sunday, which I didn't read till Monday, from Janet, and she basically asked for information on tax revenues and tax revenue delinquencies, and she didn't make a specific motion or request, but she said in her note that she thought it would be good for the whole committee to have, which I interpreted to mean she wanted the committee to take it up as something we should be doing. And I responded to her that I didn't think that it was our committee's job to manage tax revenues and tax delinquencies, and that was really not a budget committee function, but that I would bring it up and give her an opportunity to talk about it, and then she said she couldn't come to the meeting. So I don't want to do anything. I just want to let you know. But I also copied Christina on my response so she would know what was going on, and I copied Carol because I wanted some feedback from the select board about, if you disagree with me and you think that Janet's right and we should be bringing it up, and that's not what I heard you say, then I wanted to know that because
My gut instinct, I agree with you, but I don't know.
But I think as a courtesy,
Yeah.
we're going to give Janet an opportunity to
Yeah.
make her suggestion. I think I'm going to follow up with her and confirm, did she just want information because she wants to look at it? Because she also made a big point about this should all be public information, and I felt like saying, well, if you're asking for the whole committee, then I think you want the committee to do something with it, and I want to disagree with you about that. If you just want the information as an individual, if you think that it's public, go request the information and you can look at it as an individual taxpayer.
And I responded to you, I agree with you, and I think the last couple of meetings, we took a lot of other people's time asking interesting questions that weren't related to budget of these people.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to drag other people through their time at night saying, gee, I wonder what, you know, whatever, I can't even remember, but what is it? How do you do this and what do you do about that? And a lot of them were related to.
Well, to me,
Budget
I don't know, you were gonna
Well,
say
I-
something before I cut you off, go ahead.
No, that's right. I was just gonna say, I agree with your response to Janet. I don't think that that's something that the
Yeah.
budget committee should take up. However, it's okay, it's good information to share with the budget committee, percents, like, I think that's a good information for you to understand, because that gives you some more ideas of how taxes are being paid. I can't tell you for 2022 yet because the taxes just went out, obviously. But if you looked at 2022, the first billing, the only thing that hasn't been collected is 110,000, which is a 98% collection. For 2021, I don't have the exact number, but I calculated it out, and it's a 93% collection. We have about 7% in 2021 that's not been collected. So. Right now, if you looked at the total, we have 6.1 million not collected, but we just sent the tax bills out.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't paid my bill yet.
that's super inflated, obviously, but
And even if we, because I'm trying to remember our conversation from the last meeting, even if we know that
Well,
number,
and-
there's nothing we can do to pound on these people to make them come
Right.
up with money.
Yeah.
that's not
But
your
it's not our job
job.
anyway.
No.
Go ahead, Walter.
Janet just didn't do it via email. She did it here at the meeting
Yeah.
last.
She brought it up at the
She brought it
meeting.
right up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But she's following up.
she's following up and she's, I think, entitled to an answer.
I agree.
Yeah.
But to me, our responsibility, our role is to prepare a budget for the town, for the town members to consider at the meeting in March. And when you start thinking about what's the income from taxes and what's the spending and this and that, I think that that's the whole discussion the select board has about is how do we set the tax rate?
Right.
Well, we don't get to set this committee doesn't get to set the tax rate. So doing all the work to figure out what the tax rate should be is kind of an interesting, fun thing to do, but
Right.
it's a waste of time for this committee.
It's on its website, the town website, that tells you how they calculate it. Actually, I just read it. It was yesterday.
We did a frequently asked questions to try
Yeah.
and help
Yeah.
explain
And how
where
they
we were
calculate
at. But I mean, and here's the other thing. Grant, she's inquiring also in your email about getting this information publicly. It is open to the public. It's not listed, and I don't agree with listing that out, and that would be a select board decision, not a budget committee decision. But if you wanted to look up your neighbor's taxes to find out if they're paid, you can. It's online. It's all open to the public online. So,
Okay.
and I'll just leave it at that.
All right.
That's
Well,
all.
I guess-
Well, when she brought that up last week, I did say to you, in the one time when I first moved here 22 years ago, they had it in the books. In the town book, it was here who didn't pay their taxes and
Right.
who owed.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was in the book, and so I went, oh, that's crazy, but you know, but the percentage of people not paying was so high that they weren't paying. That's 98% is pretty good.
Well, and since
93 even is.
Since I've been here, it's been in the 90%.
Yeah, I mean, that's-
For the most part, it's
Yeah.
been in the
Yeah.
90%.
Yep,
Right.
yep.
I don't want to cut people off,
Nope,
but
nope.
I think we're gonna
Can I
have some of this.
one more chance?
Yes, I will but let me just say, I think we're gonna talk about this next week when Janet is here, so let's not have a lot of discussion without Janet. Go ahead.
That's fine with me, I like
I
that.
think that's a good idea.
All right, anything we talk about now without
Yeah.
Janet, we're gonna end up repeating, so
Yeah.
let's wait for our next meeting with her.
We have a meeting next week?
No,
Our next meeting, which is, you're right.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Look, I just said, wait a minute.
Next week.
Moving down the agenda, the next item is select board comments. Anything going on with the select board you wanna share with us?
No, because, no, we haven't talked much about this since last time we met. But what I'm going to bring up, and someone might have said this at town meeting last year, a different way, Chrissy's looking at me like, what's he gonna say now?
I'm going
A
home.
different way for us and the select board to present this to people at town meeting. The example last year was, we all wanted people to vote on the public safety building.
Yeah,
And everybody said, I'm not gonna vote on that till you tell me about the sewer.
yeah.
So that was a backwards process. So, example from tonight. We should be telling people about the fire department that their 7% increase, we should be prepared, we should be prepared to say it's not a 7% increase. It's a -1% increase if what he says is accurate.
Right,
If
the net spending,
Right.
spending
If you
minus
take-
revenues.
But
Yeah, the
I am
gross
of the
budget.
opinion, because every time I've gone to town, it'd be really nice at the beginning of the budget discussion, where you could say, if you do all of these things, here's the line items, it's gonna increase your tax rate by this, 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 and this. Don't vote on this, here's your information sheet. Now we go and we start voting on different pieces, and people then have an idea, before they get to the end of the meeting to vote on X, they know what else they've done for the global picture of their tax rate. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. At town meeting, it never seemed to me, it's always done piecemeal.
It does
And then all of
make,
a sudden, you're at the end, you're like, oh, criminals, we voted for all this stuff. Now the tax rate, it happened last year. Somebody said, well, what's the tax rate gonna be? And then, I don't know if you remember this.
That's every year.
Well, but then,
that was the comment I was gonna make. The challenge is that we don't let the public at the town meeting vote on the tax rate. They vote on the spending
So
budget.
that's
they don't, but
you can
that's
give
the
them-
question that comes up.
You
Right,
can
you need-
only give them an estimate on what you think the tax, you're not gonna know what those taxes are gonna be. 'cause
No,
you're
You
not-
can't even really know that, you can tell them how a certain thing would impact the tax rate.
Yes,
Correct.
I'm not being clear. That's more what I'm saying.
Right,
So when we come to
And
this.
some towns put that on the warrant.
right.
They put an estimated impact.
So if
Of
you
each-
take the value of the
Warrant
town.
Not of each line item, but maybe of each
Warrant article.
department or each warrant article.
Yep.
So that before
If
you,
you take the value of the town for every, I think we're at 559 million is the value. So every 559,000 you add to the budget, your tax rate could go up $1.
Yeah.
Every 559,000 you add or subtract, it could go up $1 or reduce $1.
Right.
However, if your values go up, that helps adjust that down some. So you can only give an estimate at town meeting.
right, and I guess I'm just trying to, I've always thought it's never clear when you're sitting there what the bottom line is by the time you get to the end of the day. I
Well,
voted on this, but gee, I wish I hadn't voted on that, because now it's done this to my tax rate,
Right.
approximately, I get that.
that,
So I'm just
that
saying.
thing
like,
happened last year with the safety committee about that is because the budget committee denied it.
Yeah.
We voted against it, and not because we didn't want it or believe the safety building should be built. It should have. It's because the select board never gave a definitive answer as to what they were going to do with the water
No, they constantly like
safety.
essentially pull us along.
We did not have an answer, and they only decided that week
Yes.
what they were going to do.
Right, so when you had to vote, you couldn't in good conscience
No,
Right.
vote
we
for
couldn't.
it.
We couldn't do
So,
it.
to shorten the conversation, I'm just saying, as we go through this, let's think about how we present our list when the time comes in a clear, logical way, so people, if your taxes are going up,
That's gonna be a
So you
select
can-
board
it
decision
will
as
be.
well.
But because you,
And a lot of
we
that,
get to speak to it as well.
unfortunately, kind of lands on Paul when he presents at town meeting, and as well
What's
as the
the
piece that
impact?
you write for the.
Right, that goes into the
That's-
warrant.
But that's one warrant article
That's
of
only one, yeah.
many.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm just saying, as far,
That's-
relative to the operating.
And I went on, I think, 2 minutes
Yeah.
about what our budget did and causes for the increases. And
Okay.
Anyway, enough said.
Anything? So, and member comments? The one thing I wanted to mention to you, because you weren't here last week, the select board did approve changing the order of the budget. So when it goes to, it's gonna be operating
It's
plus
in your
water
change now.
sewer. Then we'll have the number they're
Great.
actually voting on and then capital at the bottom. So they
Great.
went with that suggestion.
It is in that new budget that you have tonight.
oh, and is this why the page numbers are slightly different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does any other member of the committee have any comments they want to make? I think we've all. talked
And it's
about
why
that.
I have this general fund operations and debt service line
Yes.
that you pointed out to me.
Okay.
Thank you. I get it now.
Staff comments, anything you haven't said that you wanna?
I did have to add two things.
Yep.
I didn't send you the PDF that I said I would for the budget workshop, for budget workbook, and I will do that tomorrow. And then if anybody wants it printed or purchased, you can just let me know.
Okay.
So I'll get that sent out, and then
Do they do a digital version?
I have a PDF version of it. I think I might have a link too. I went to the training, so I have the PDF
Okay.
of the book, so I can email that to everyone.
Oh,
And
cool.
then you can decide if you want a printed copy or if you want a purchased copy. We just didn't have enough to purchase for everybody.
Right.
I had a note from the last meeting about sending the solar presentation numbers to the budget committee, but I think that was only one person that asked for that at the last meeting.
Yeah.
And I haven't sent that yet. Do you have any interest in getting those? The board hasn't made a decision whether to support or not support. They will be talking about it Thursday night.
The proposed warrant article to give people to put solar on their house a tax credit to incentivize more people to put solar on their house.
Right.
Right.
And whether it would be 100% tax credit or less amount, or if they're gonna.
I think I'm only interested if the select board thinks there's a chance it's going to be on the warrant.
So,
If that's the case, then I would say I'm
I'm gonna say the
interested.
same thing, I'm interested as a taxpayer and as a citizen, but as a committee member, I just need to hear from the select board what you guys are recommending, because
Yeah.
we have to, it'll.
Yep.
to be honest with you, I will let you know that if the select board doesn't approve this, it will be a petition warrant article. So
I think you made
just
that clear
so that
last
you know that
meeting.
this person will go forward with it.
Yeah.
But whether the board supports it or not, you'll still get to talk about it.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and I think that was all I had that I kind of.
Well, the information on the library, but you didn't have that.
No, she's going to be coming
She's
to
gonna
meet
come in.
with you at the next meeting. And again, the reason we switched her was because she was in Florida this week. So
Okay.
she couldn't come at her normally when you meet with them. So she'll have that information for you.
Sure.
So I think that is all the things on our agenda. Our next meeting is in 2 weeks on Tuesday, December 13th, here in this room at 6 o'clock, and we have a bunch of more departments to go through. And unless anyone has anything else, we will adjourn. So I will make a motion to adjourn. Can I get a
I
second?
second.
All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you for coming, folks.
Nice job, you guys, everybody.